Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Unlimited rewards in Marvel, and my girlfriend is Wonder Woman. Chapter 1. Marvel World. New York, Manhattan, Sky Apartments. Russell, don't you want to explain what you call a business trip? Russell sat on the sofa in his living room, looking at the woman standing in front of him with embarrassment. This is a very beautiful woman. Tall and slender, she has a face that is more beautiful than most Hollywood movie stars. Her name is Diana Prince, and she claims to be 25 years old. She is a staff member at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, majoring in anthropology and archaeology. She is proficient in ancient Greek, English, French, and Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Chinese, Latin and other languages. She usually likes to eat 2 fried eggs and a piece of toast for breakfast. Her favorite coffee is latte. She has the habit of drinking half a glass of whiskey before going to bed at night. Why did Russell know this? The reason is very simple, because Diana was his girlfriend who lived with him for 2 years. It's just that his girlfriend, who has lived together for 2 years, is now holding a sword in the right hand and a shield in the left, standing less than a meter away from him. The sharp sword point is pointing at the one that protrudes from his left shoulder. A magical creature, with huge white eyes, a mouth full of fangs and sharp teeth, a super long red tongue, and its head only connected by black tentacles. Diana is now wearing a dress that he has never seen in reality, but is not unfamiliar at all, looking at him with a serious face, as if she is interrogating him if he is going out under the guise of a business trip. The current Diana is wearing a close-fitting battle armor like a camisole. The armor is mainly dark red, and the rounded and upturned upper edge and the position of the belt are made of gold-yellow metal to create a structure similar to the English letter W. The lower body is a dark blue dress that is integrated with the battle armor. This skirt is so short, revealing a large area of fair and delicate snow-white skin. Going down these long, straight, plump thighs with excellent feel and elasticity, it is a pair of boots that are like over-the-knee-high boots. Like the armor, the boots are mainly dark red, and the upper and lower edges are golden. Russell's eyes followed Diana's delicate and beautiful face all the way down, followed her swan-like neck, and came to the collarbone showing a large piece of fair skin. Then, following the bulge that was not surprisingly curved but beautiful in shape, he continued down to a flat belly without any fat and a perfectly slender waist. Although he was shielded by the body armor, he knew how amazing the elasticity and waist strength of that seemingly soft flat belly. Sister's waist is not waist, Suburo's machete. Russell has a deep understanding of this. Going down his waist and abdomen, his eyes stayed on the absolute field under the dark blue dress for a few more seconds. Afterwards, he extended his graceful legs to his over-the-knee-high boots. After scanning Diana completely from top to bottom, Russell swallowed, raised his right hand carefully, and pushed the long sword that looked sharp at first. When the gleaming sword tip left the new body structure emerging from his left shoulder, he slowly said, "That. Diana, should you also explain your current outfit and the sword you just made? The thing about breaking the rhinoceros armor." When he first met, he knew exactly who Diana was. But he never exposed Diana, and even took the initiative to cooperate with Diana in disguise. Wonder Woman, his girlfriend, who has lived together for 2 years, is none other than Wonder Woman in the 600th world next door. There are various indications that Diana, like him, is a traveler who has inexplicably crossed into this world. Russell didn't know when Diana crossed over. But it was 3 years ago that he crossed into this world. 3 years ago, it was a dark and windy night for a month. Russell, who was sleeping at home, was suddenly kicked out of bed. When he opened his eyes, he crossed into this world. As someone who has been reading online novels since junior high school, he is no stranger to such things as time travel. The so-called well-informed, he quickly accepted the fact that he was traveling, and used the fastest speed to figure out his state and the world he was in. First of all, in terms of the way of crossing, he belongs to the clothing, that is, the whole person directly crossed over. Although he was dressed, there was a little problem with his clothes. The body is indeed still his own, but the problem is that this is not his body at the time, but a stronger and healthier body. Perhaps it was because of some unknown mutation that occurred in the process of crossing. When he opened his eyes, his body looked like this. How much stronger he is not sure. It's just that his abdominal muscles, which were all in one because of eating nonsense, turned into 8 sharp-edged pieces again. Not only that, his chest muscles, back muscles, biceps, etc. have been significantly strengthened. At least in his own memory, he had never had such a muscled time. Abs are the exception. He also had a period of time when he had 8-pack abs. After confirming that the body was still his own, he didn't bother to figure out the world he was in. First of all, this is still the Earth. However, it is not the Earth where he lives, but the Earth with superheroes such as Captain America, Spider-Woman and Fantastic Four. When he woke up on a bench in New York's Central Park, he was wearing a clean and tidy tracksuit. In addition to the clothes and shoes he was wearing, he also had a driver's license to prove his identity. The photo on the driver's license is still him. His name is Russell Bradley, he is 18 years old, and he is Chinese American. Except for the clothes and driver's license on his body, he who just crossed over can be said to be poor and white in the true sense. To make matters worse, after crossing, he did not get the greatest crossing benefits of the transmigrators. He has no golden fingers. Of course, this was just a misjudgment by him at the time. His golden finger, in the 3rd month after he crossed. To be precise, the day he met Diana, his golden finger appeared. Unlimited reward system. Reward. Infinite Ultron. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Unknown. Reward. Dark Doctor Strange. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Unknown. Reward. Odin's power. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Unknown. Reward. Endosymbiotic battle armor. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Unknown. Reward. Venom symbiote. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Unknown. Reward. Kryptonian bloodline. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Unknown. Reward. Wonder Woman's blessing. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Become Wonder Woman Diana's boyfriend. On that day, in front of the gate of the American Museum of Natural History, he met Diana, who was wearing a handsome creamy white female suit and a pair of stiletto heels. The moment he saw Diana, his golden finger went live, and 7 rewards were given. In the days that followed, he tried his best, with an interesting soul, a 3-inch tongue, and an appearance and temperament that did not lose to Azu. He finally succeeded in holding a beautiful woman and won the heart of Wonder Woman Diana. And the first reward given by the system, Wonder Woman's blessing. Reward. Wonder Woman's blessing. Status. Activated. Activation condition. Become Wonder Woman's boyfriend. Activation effect. After activation, you will gain a physique far beyond that of a normal person and possess a weak demigod power. Quote. Russell thought he was just crossing into a non-sacred timeline in the Marvel Universe. After all, the Captain America of this world was dug up in advance, and there are superheroes such as Fantastic Four and Spider-Woman. But Diana's appearance and the rewards displayed by the system proved that things were not as simple as he thought. Wonder Woman and Kryptonian bloodlines are all special products that are only owned by the 600th world next door. On the day he met Diana, he had lived in this world for more than 3 months. So he is very sure that there are no superheroes such as Superman and Batman in this world. So the question is, why did Wonder Woman Diana appear in this world? Although he succeeded in getting Diana and living with Diana later, he did not ask how Diana came to be. In fact, you don't need to ask to know, isn't it just time travel, nothing special. After crossing into this world with Diana of the DC Universe, his own crossing seems even more bizarre. After all, there is no so-called superhero in the universe he lives in. In the past 2 years or so, he and Diana have kept their own little secrets and lived a cohabitation life that is not much different from a normal couple. Of course, when we lived together, it wasn't that there were no situations where we were almost exposed. But these situations were ignored by them, tacitly. In this world, who hasn't revealed their own little secrets? It's enough to know this kind of thing. Don't get off the topic. Now I'm asking you, what's the matter with this thing on you? Diana aimed the sharp point of the sword again at the black head protruding from Russell's left shoulder. This, as I told you before, I am a superhuman, and this thing is the second superpower I awakened. Russell pointed to the black head full of fangs on his left shoulder and said, this black head is nothing but the head of the symbiote Venom. Not right. Strictly speaking, this head is not the head of the symbiote Venom, but a part of his body. Russell actually doesn't know how to explain this Venom symbiote in himself. Unlimited reward system. Activated rewards. Wonder Woman's blessing, Venom symbiote. Reward, Wonder Woman's blessing. Status, activated, activation condition. Become Wonder Woman's boyfriend, activation effect. After activation, you will gain a physique far beyond that of a normal person and possess a weak demigod power. Quote. Reward, Venom symbiote. Status, activated, activation conditions. Get along with Eddie Brock in a closed space for 24 hours. Activation effect. After activation, you will gain all the abilities behind Venom's possession. Although Russell has lived in this world for 3 years. But until a week ago, the only reward he actually activated was Wonder Woman's blessing. Although there are a lot of rewards listed in the system, most of them are not activated, and I don't know how to activate them at all. When the activation conditions for the Venom symbiote were turned on, Russell didn't think too much, and immediately started to officially activate the reward. After a period of detailed planning, 2 days ago, he successfully kidnapped Eddie Bullock, a reporter from the Global Daily, and locked him in the enclosed space he had prepared. Because the action needs to disappear for a few days, he specially prepared an excuse and told Diana that he was going to Washington to handle a commission. By the way, his public identity is now a private detective, and he has a private detective agency called Octopus Monster under his name. Of course, in addition to this obvious identity, he also has some secret identities. For example, the direct hit killer of the Continental Hotel. Although he didn't receive any killer training before crossing, he didn't come to this world for a long time, only about 3 years. But it can't be helped that he has a unique plug-in. Wonder Woman's blessing gave him a physique far beyond that of a normal human being. These include but are not limited to strength, speed, stamina, resilience, and learning ability. If it weren't for this reward, he would have been squeezed into scum long ago, living with a stunner like Diana. With his physical fitness far exceeding that of normal human beings, he did not spend much effort to evolve from an ordinary person to a qualified killer, and successfully obtained the approval of the Mainland Hotel. Diana knew he was a killer, but she didn't say anything. Because he is a very professional killer. Unlike his peers who see money, Russell is an alternative in the killer world. When he executes the commission, he does not only look at the reward, but sometimes also depends on who the target is, and does some commissions that use violence to control violence. Perhaps it was because of his demeanor that he had a demeanor of eliminating harm for the people, so Diana chose to turn a blind eye. Speaking of which, he just activated the reward, Venom symbiote. Judging from the name of the reward, the system rewards the Venom symbiote. But in fact, he only gained all the abilities after being symbiotic with Venom. More importantly, because there is no real Venom in his body, he needs to control these abilities of Venom. When Diana found out, he had just received the reward for less than an hour. He didn't even have time to release Eddie Bullock. At that time, he was practicing how to control this new ability. Then, the wall was smashed by the Rhino Man wearing steel armor. What's more troublesome is that behind the rhinoceros, who is still carrying 2 bags of dollars, is Diana in battle armor. The next thing is very simple. Diana easily killed Rhino, released Eddie Bullock who was kidnapped by him, and then took him back home. Do you think I will believe your statement? Diana raised her willow-like eyebrows and said slowly. This is real. Although Diana was his girlfriend and the two knew everything, Russell didn't think it was a wise thing to tell Diana about the existence of the system. Looks like you're not going to tell the truth. As soon as she finished speaking, Diana put away the long sword and shield in her hand, and took off the noose of mantra hanging from her waist. The originally ordinary noose of mantra radiated golden light the moment it was picked up by Diana. Don't play so hard. With a flick of Diana's wrist, the golden noose of mantra fell on Russell, binding him firmly. You can only tell the truth after being lassoed by the mantra. Tell me, what's the matter with this black head on your body? When Diana finished speaking, Russell felt the urge to confess everything. However, just when he was about to say everything, that uncontrollable impulse disappeared instantly. Russell felt as if a bucket of ice water was pouring down on his head. The cold feeling instantly dispelled all impulses in his heart. Although this thing looks a little disgusting, it's really my superpower, the superpower I just awakened. The lasso's effect of telling the truth disappeared in Russell. A system that usually does not have much sense of existence, in an incredible way, resolves the ability of the nostalgic lasso. Russell's expression is very sincere now, and it doesn't look like he is lying at all. In fact, he didn't tell a lie. He only told part of the truth in a targeted manner. Diana probably never thought that the mantra lasso would one day fail. After hearing Russell's answer, her expression eased a lot. What effect does your ability have? Diana continued to ask. There is no need to hide this. Russell did not hesitate, and briefly explained the ability after being symbiotic with venom. Diana listened carefully, and from time to time looked at the venomous head protruding from Russell's left shoulder. When Russell finished speaking, she asked again, "What happened to the person who was kidnapped by you?" Forehead. This question is the point. Russell's original plan was to use the awakening of a new superpower as an excuse to explain his body changes after activating the Venom symbiote reward. But he never imagined that Diana would appear just after he activated the reward and had no time to master it. To make matters worse, Diana also saw Eddie Bullock, who had been kidnapped by him. Two men stayed in a room of an abandoned house. One of them was tied to a chair, and the other had a strange creature that looked abnormal at first glance. No matter how you look at this picture, it's not right. It also made it impossible for Russell to explain it all with the excuses that were planned in the first place. Although the situation was a little tricky, he quickly came up with another plan. In fact, it is not a new plan. It is to tell Diana part of the truth on the premise of concealing the existence of the system. Well, the thing is like this, you should be very clear about the fact that I have superpowers. I lied to you. My superpower is not actually a physique far beyond that of a normal person. In fact, my superpower is that as long as I do certain things, I can gain new abilities. Simply put, it's similar to losing weight by eating less and exercising more. Do certain things, and then get certain rewards. The kidnapped man is what I need to do to awaken my new abilities this time. Speaking of this level, Russell is basically no different from Confession. Except that the system was replaced by him with superpowers, everything else was pretty much the same. Strictly speaking, the system is indeed his superpower. But compared to the system, superpowers are obviously easier for Diana to understand. Russell thought that at this level, Diana should be able to understand why he did it. However, it turns out that he underestimated the thinking gap between men and women. You actually lied to me. Diana's expression, which had just eased off, became extremely serious again. No, shouldn't this be the point at this time? Just as Russell was about to explain, Diana's right hand was pulled back, and the noose of mantra wrapped around him began to shrink visibly to the naked eye. Pain, 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 pain. Russell began to struggle instinctively, but in front of the mantra lasso, his struggle was not as effective as he imagined. His face became ruddy, and his expression became hideous. The extraordinary physique given to him by the two rewards, Wonder Woman's blessing, and Venom symbiote, still failed to let him break free from the noose of mantra. Just when he started to think about how many bones he would break this time, the mantra noose suddenly loosened. Ha! Saved. How could Diana, such a gentle and virtuous girlfriend, kill him? Think about it and know that this is impossible. Girls, it's normal to lose your temper, it's no big deal. Russell comforted himself in his heart, and at the same time repaired the wounds on his body with the venom ability he had just acquired. Seeing Russell rubbing her arms unconsciously, Diana put away the noose of mantra. This time, forget about it. If there is such a thing in the future, don't hide it from me. Diana said softly. Okay, Her Majesty. Russell replied with a serious face. Seeing him pretending to be serious, Diana began to regret taking back the noose of mantra. Starting today, you will sleep in the second bedroom alone. Don't touch me until you completely control these things on you. After speaking, Diana didn't give Russell a chance to speak at all, turned around and left, and entered the master bedroom without looking back. Forehead. When Diana's graceful figure completely disappeared from sight, Russell turned his head with a wry smile and glanced at the head of venom protruding from his left shoulder. The venom head, which is not really a real creature, also turned to look at him at this time. His eyes met. Russell, who did not want to sleep alone in the second bedroom, did not hesitate, and immediately began to control his new ability. Because he now only has the ability to be symbiotic with venom, rather than being symbiotic with real venom, so he can only rely on himself to control the symbiote in himself that is not a symbiote. He feels like a baby elephant who hasn't figured out how to control his nose yet. Of course, it's also a bit like a milk cat that hasn't figured out how to control its tail. While he was racing against time to adapt to his new abilities, Diana took off her battle armor and put on a not frivolous black silk nightdress. Her long black hair fell down naturally. The hem of the nightgown was only a little longer than the armor's skirt, revealing her long straight, white and tender legs without any concealment. From the skirt up, through the slender waist full of elasticity and vitality, it came to the peak of the pair of beautiful shapes. Russell was trying to adapt to his new abilities. After seeing Diana's outfit, the venomous head that he had just taken back from his body came out again. Different from the one that appeared from the left shoulder before, the venomous head full of fangs appeared from his chest this time, and the pair of ridiculously large white eyes stared at Diana. Before Russell could speak, Diana threw the pajamas in her hand and smashed it on Venom's head. "Are you going to take a bath together?" Russell had a very reasonable association. However, it turned out that he thought too much. Diana didn't say anything, raised her right finger and pointed to the second bedroom and the guest guard. Then, swaying his seductive waist like a water snake, he returned to the master bedroom again and closed the door. Click. The sound of the door being locked suddenly sounded. Hope shattered. Since living with Diana, Russell has never experienced sleeping alone unless he is not at home or Diana is not at home. Although when two people sleep, the bed will be a little small, the sheets get wet easily, the quilt will be snatched from time to time, and you will hear complaints like, "You pressed my hair," but Russell still prefers two people together. Sleep. Not for anything else, just because it feels more secure. A powerful and reliable demigod sleeps next to him, and it's hard to think about being safe. More importantly, Russell has some bad habits when he sleeps, such as he likes to sleep with his arms around things. After hearing the sound of the lock coming from the master bedroom, Russell sighed helplessly, and patted the head of venom protruding from his chest lightly. After taking the black mucus-like venom head back into his body, Russell picked up the pajamas thrown by Diana and walked towards the guest guard. After taking a shower, he walked to the clean guest bedroom alone in his pajamas. Lying in bed, I don't know if it was because of the lack of a person beside him, or because he recognized the bed. Finally, he sat up and started the manipulation and adaptation of the new ability again. He intends to solve the problem overnight. There is a cohabiting girlfriend with a beautiful face and a bumpy figure, but she has to sleep alone in the second bedroom. It is enough to experience this kind of thing for one night. The time of the night is fleeting. The next day, Russell, who was busy until the middle of the night, slowly opened his eyes when there was a faint sound of tableware colliding in the kitchen. The upper body is wearing a men's white shirt that is one size larger, and the lower body is in the style of missing bottoms, revealing a pair of slender legs. Diana is preparing for today's breakfast. The soft golden sunlight came in from the window and draped over Diana like a veil, making her look holy and indescribably gentle and virtuous. Morning. After grooming, Russell came to the kitchen in pajamas, and as usual, hugged Diana from behind. Just as he was about to go up and down with Diana, who was cooking breakfast, as usual, a violent elbow hit him in the right rib cage, making him, who was still a little awake, instantly awake. Hiss. Russell took a deep breath, instinctively stepped back several steps, and rubbed the right rib that was elbowed by Diana. Having been living together for more than 2 years, Diana knew very well the extent of his physique. Otherwise, Diana wouldn't be able to drain his physical strength completely every time. Diana's elbow just now was fatal to ordinary people. But for Russell, it's a middle ground between injured and uninjured. Diana, who has been trained as a warrior on Paradise Island since she was a child, is very good at controlling strength. "I can already perfectly control the newly awakened ability," Russell said quickly. After hearing his words, Diana stopped for a moment when she was turning over for bacon. Then, her gentle and pleasant voice rang out. "Let's talk after breakfast." A few minutes later, Diana's homemade breakfast came out. Fried eggs, toast, bacon, milk. A very common American breakfast. After setting the breakfast plate, Russell and Diana sat down face to face. Just when Russell was about to pick up the fork and enjoy the breakfast that Diana made by herself, Diana looked at him seriously and said slowly, "Didn't you say that you can perfectly control your new ability? Prove it." "No problem." Russell raised his left hand, palm up, fingers apart. In the next second, black tentacles burst out from the tips of the 5 fingers. Under his control, these black tentacles flew to the salt shakers, jam shakers and other condiment shakers on the table. 2 of the black tentacles also picked up the knife and fork on the table, and began to spread jam on the toast according to his usual habit, and cut the toast and fried eggs into suitable sizes. Under Diana's gaze, the knife and fork precisely controlled by the black tentacles delivered the sliced toast and fried eggs to Russell's mouth. "How about it? Is it convenient?" Russell said to Diana while manipulating the black tentacles to feed himself. "Your ability looks a little disgusting." What? It took Russell a whole night to master the ability of the Venom symbiote to such a degree, and in return he received a bit disgusting evaluation. The focus now should not be on the precise manipulation of the black tentacles. How can you personally attack the external form of the symbiote? Besides, it's not something that the symbiote can decide to grow into this slimy tentacle-like appearance. If you want to blame, you can only blame Nar, the symbiotes who created the symbiote family. Although he thought so in his heart, Russell didn't argue with Diana about this plan, and withdrew the black tentacles gushing out from the fingers of his left hand. "Let's not talk about whether this ability is disgusting or not. How did you find me last night?" Although Diana is a superhero, Russell has never seen her perform any superhero activities after getting to know her. It's not like the Rhinos have robbed banks once or twice. Spider-Woman and the Fantastic Four have both tried to capture him. But I don't know if Rhino was lucky, or the luck of Spider-Woman and others was too bad. Rhino was never caught and brought to justice, and became a new generation of top criminal star in New York. Judging from Diana's previous behavior, let alone the Rhino man just robbed the bank yesterday. Even if Rhino robbed the Federal Reserve's New York headquarters yesterday, she is unlikely to catch Rhino. "I was contacted by an anonymous phone number, saying that you kidnapped a reporter, which is life-threatening, and told me your location." Diana put down the knife and fork in her hand and said with a frown. "Anonymous phone calls. Know that he kidnapped Eddie Brock, and also know his exact location." Obviously, the person who made the anonymous call had extremely accurate intelligence. After hearing the news, Russell immediately had a suspect in his mind. S.H.I.E.L.D. Although in addition to S.H.I.E.L.D., anonymous calls may also be made by people from other organizations. But as things stand, S.H.I.E.L.D. is the most doubtful target. This world is a bit different from the movie universe world he is familiar with. Captain America Steve Rogers was dug up by S.H.I.E.L.D. 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know what S.H.I.E.L.D. thought. After Captain America was thawed, they didn't hide the news, but instead pushed Captain America into the spotlight. S.H.I.E.L.D. also took this opportunity to appear in the public eye from a secret government agency. Not long after Team America's Rising from the Dead debut, the Fantastic Four appeared, and Spider-Woman made his debut 4 years ago. The appearance of Captain America, like a fuse, ignited the prelude to the opening of the superhero era. Spider-Woman and the Fantastic Four are just some of the more well-known ones. Others, such as Daredevil, Iron Fist, Ghost Rider, Blade Warrior and other superheroes also appeared. Since there are superheroes, there will naturally be supervillains. Compared with the blowout superheroes, the number of supervillains is relatively small at present. The reason is very simple, because these supervillains not only need to deal with the blows of superheroes, but also need to deal with the blows of official forces, as well as the frame-ups of their peers. Colleagues are all enemies. In the supervillain line, even more so. To give a simple example, there is only one Earth, but there are more than one supervillains who want to conquer and destroy the Earth. Then, who will conquer and destroy the Earth has become a problem that needs to be solved within the supervillains. Anonymous call. I will find someone to investigate and see if I can find any useful information. However, do you need to explain your performance yesterday? Although he already knew Diana's origin, Russell never exposed it. Now I have the opportunity to openly and honestly ask Diana how she came to this world. Of course, he will not let this opportunity go lightly. After hearing Russell's question, Diana put down the knife and fork in her hand, and a complicated look appeared on her pretty face. After being silent for a few seconds, she slowly said, "Not from this world." In the following time, Diana didn't hide it, and told her origins one by one. When Diana confessed her origins, Russell also compared some information she knew in her mind. Although he knew that Diana was from the 600th world next door, he didn't know which universe Diana came from in the 600th world next door. In terms of the number of parallel universes, Marvel with infinite parallel universes is much more than DC with only 52 parallel universes. But even so, it didn't mean that Diana in front of him was the Wonder Woman he knew. Diana spoke quickly. In less than 10 minutes, Russell had a rough idea of Diana's past life experiences. In short, Diana's past life experience was not much different from what he remembered. He grew up on Paradise Island, and was taken out of Paradise Island by Steve Trevor during World War I, and finally defeated Ares, the culprit who caused the World War I. In 1984, she defeated the Leopard Girl and solved the Wish Stone crisis. Later, she met Superman and Batman, and the three teamed up to defeat Doomsday. Here, Diana's life experience was different from what Russell remembered. After Superman died, Diana left human society and returned to Paradise Island. A few years later, after eliminating a demon who was trying to invade the human world, she was struck by a red lightning bolt. When she woke up, she had already crossed into this world. In terms of time, she traveled a year earlier than Russell. After Diana finished speaking, Russell frowned slightly. Her way of crossing is a bit old-fashioned. Seeing Russell frowning, a trace of worry appeared on Diana's face. Although Russell is a superpower, in her opinion, the fact that she is from another world is still a bit too bizarre for Russell. She didn't know how Russell would view this matter, and she was even a little worried whether Russell would choose to alienate herself because of this matter. Don't look at Diana's calm appearance as a heroine, but in the final analysis, she is a woman with some fragile psychology shared by women. Just when she looked at Russell worriedly, Russell's frowning brows eased, and he said slowly, "Actually, I'm just like you, and I'm not from this world." Diana didn't hide that she was from the 600th world, and Russell simply revealed the fact that she was a traveler. Trust is mutual. Since Diana chose to trust him, of course he had to reciprocate. Living together for more than 2 years was enough to let him know what kind of person Diana was. "You come from other worlds too?" Diana asked in disbelief. "Yes, but the way I came to this world is very different from yours. I was not struck by lightning. I slept and woke up here," Russell said quickly. This time, it was Diana's turn to frown. "We've got to talk about everything we talked about before, everything." This morning, neither Russell nor Diana went to work and started a confession game in the apartment. Russell confessed most things, except for the existence of the system and the fact that Marvel and DC are just two things on the planet where he is, anime and movies. Compared with him, Diana is much more honest. Diana confessed everything, including her ex-boyfriend Steve Trevor. Listening to my live-in girlfriend talking about her dead ex-boyfriend, this feeling is a bit strange. After confessing that the game was over, Russell and Diana, who were at the same time lost in the world, had an in-depth exchange on the origin of life and the meaning of life. Noon. After having lunch in the apartment, they left the apartment and drove their vehicles to work. The place where Diana is going is, of course, the American Museum of Natural History on the west side of Central Park in New York. And the place where Russell is going is the Octopus Detective Agency in Hell's Kitchen. The American Museum of Natural History and Hell's Kitchen are both in Manhattan, and not far from each other, less than 3 kilometers away. Russell opened his office in Hell's Kitchen because it was close to the museum where Diana worked, so it was convenient for him to visit Diana for lunch at noon. On the other hand, it's because Hell's Kitchen is a well-known novice village for traversers in the Marvel world. Although later passers-by became less and less fond of the novice village of Hell's Kitchen, Russell still chose this place as the starting point for his career. Of course, he will choose this place as the starting point of his career, which is inseparable from the good security environment in Hell's Kitchen. As a detective on the surface, but there are several underground world members with different identities behind the scenes, the mixed Hell's Kitchen is more suitable for him to use his professional expertise. Octopus Monster Private Detective Agency. After arriving at the office that had not opened for several days, Russell first opened the windows to help the office ventilate, then picked up the various letters of entrustment stuffed at the door, and read them one by one. Although his time as a private investigator was not as long as his time as a killer, he still made a lot of reputation in the detective line. Speaking of this, I have to thank the Japanese elementary school student who brings his own aura of death, where there will be fatalities wherever he goes. Before crossing, the knowledge learned from this Japanese elementary school student was some useless knowledge that was not used at all. But after crossing into this world, these useless knowledge became one of his skills for eating. Because he has established a fairly good reputation in the detective line, he also established a good cooperative relationship with the New York Police Department and became a consultant of the New York Police Department. Lost pet cat. An underage girl who ran away from home. Suspected cheating husband. Stolen jewelry. Although there are many letters of entrustment stuffed at the entrance of the office, they are basically some routine detective business, which can't interest Russell at all. After quickly browsing the letters of entrustment in his hand, Russell threw them into the trash can. Let's solve the problem of anonymous calls first. Russell opened the office cabinet behind him, entered the password, and opened the safe inside. Several stacks of cash, 20 or 30 gold coins, 2 pistols, and 4 magazines. These 2 pistols, one is HKP-30L and the other is Glock 26. Although Russell has a physique that is far beyond normal, when he is a killer, he still prefers to use a pistol instead of rushing to melee like a berserker. In order to be a good killer, he also deliberately learned several different shooting techniques. For example, Mozambique shooting, contact shooting, directional shooting, CARs shooting, etc. Times have changed. Now is not the time to be a killer with a gun. Professionalism determines how long a killer can live. He took the HKP-30L and Glock 26 out of the safe and checked them. After confirming that there was no problem, Russell put the 2 guns in the holster and hung them on the belt. After taking the weapon, he took out 2 spare magazines and 10 gold coins from the safe and put them in his pocket. After doing all this, he locked the safe, closed the door of the office, and took a taxi to the Continental Hotel. Although he drove over, he had no plans to drive to the hotel by himself. Continental Hotel. From the outside, this is an ordinary hotel located at an intersection. But in fact, this is New York's killer base. Regardless of whether it is a direct operated killer of the Continental Hotel, as long as you have the gold coins issued by the management behind the Continental Hotel high table, you can enter the hotel and enjoy all the services of the hotel. The Continental Hotel is New York's killer base. Not only the killers know this, but the New York police as well. But knowing, so far, Russell has not heard of any unlucky person who was taken away by the police in the hotel. To a certain extent, the Continental Hotel represents safety. Staying here, you won't have to worry about the sudden arrival of the police, let alone the assassination of your peers. But today, Russell came here not to stay, but to inquire about news. After getting off the taxi, Russell walked straight into the hotel. He didn't go to the front desk to find the bald black waiter Karen, but came to the secret bar located in the basement of the hotel. There is a coin slot on the door of the bar. After taking out a gold coin from his pocket and putting it in, the waiter inside opened the observation window on the door and took a look. After confirming that only Russell was at the door, the waiter opened the door. The entrance fee is 1 gold coin. Although these gold coins were issued and promoted by the high table, the purchasing power of these gold coins has always been a mystery. Enter the bar, 1 gold coin. Find a doctor, 1 gold coin. Check in hotel, 1 gold coin. Dealing with a corpse is still a gold coin. Even if you just let someone bring your pet dog to the hotel, it's a gold coin. In a big way, a gold coin can hire a killer. To put it mildly, 1 gold coin can only help someone take care of a pet dog for a few hours. Although the purchasing power of these gold coins has always been a mystery, with the promotion of the high table, these gold coins have become the hard currency of the killer world. Speaking of this, I have to talk about the magical organization of the high table. The high table is a killer alliance formed by major gangs around the world, with a total of 12 seats, headquartered in the desert near Casablanca. These 12 seats are the management of the high table, which are occupied by the Camorra, the Mafia, the Glory Society, the Chinese, and the Russians. The Continental Hotel is one of the subsidiaries of the High Table. On the surface, the inside of the High Table is united to defend against foreign enemies. But in fact, there are undercurrents and intrigue inside. But this has nothing to do with Russell. Although he is the direct hitman of the Continental Hotel, he does not belong to any faction. If there is a task of interest, he will do it. If not, he will be a private investigator who obeys the law and pays taxes on time. It's not even night yet. But there are already many customers in the bar. Among them were some of Russell's old friends. After nodding to these people, he went straight to the bar, took out a gold coin and handed it to the bartender. I want a reliable hacker, any recommendations? The hacker organization Rising Tide has recently done several quite sensational cases. Do you need to contact you? The bartender said while wiping his glass. Rising Tide organization. This name sounds a little familiar. Okay. Let them call me on this phone. After speaking, Roger took out a business card with only a phone number from his pocket, and put the business card next to the gold coins. Okay, Mr. Bradley, want something to drink? The bartender put away the business card and gold coins and said with a smile. Be the same. Okay, sir. The bartender took out a glass from the bar and poured Russell a glass of Glendon 18-year-old whiskey. It sounds kind of funny. Russell has been a killer for more than 2 years, and many targets have died in his hands. But it wasn't until this year that he finally met the legal drinking age. At the age of 16, you can get married and get a driver's license, and at the age of 18, you can join the army and go to the battlefield. But you can't drink legally until you're 21. What's even more funny is that this legal provision that people under the age of 21 cannot drink alcohol has different interpretations in different states. Some states make it illegal to drink and possess alcoholic beverages under the age of 21. In other states, there is no legislation stating that it is illegal to drink alcohol under the age of 21, and it is only illegal to sell alcohol to customers under the age of 21. Even private drinking, different states have different regulations. Some states allow private drinking, others not. Some states can drink it in the presence of a guardian, some states can drink it for religious reasons. It's just a legal provision on drinking age, and it has been played with different tricks by different states. So sometimes I have to say that it is really a matter luck that the magical country of the United States can become the world's most powerful country. Just when Russell was thinking about when America would kill herself because of system problems, a tall, beautiful-looking black-haired female killer came to sit next to him, and put her right hand directly on his shoulder. Perkins, I have a girlfriend. Russell removed the female killer Perkins' right hand from his shoulder and said slowly. Perkins is also an old friend of his, and they have worked together on several missions. Although most killers are lone rangers, a person's power is limited after all. When encountering some special tasks, it is inevitable to need some partners. I know, but your girlfriend isn't here right now. I've seen her, and she's not that stingy. Perkins raised his right hand again, raised Russell's chin with his fingers, and said charmingly. Everyone is a killer in New York. Perkins met Diana, and Russell was not surprised. When he first entered the industry, he also considered whether to hide his true identity to avoid some unpleasant things in the future. But he finally gave up on the idea. There are 2 reasons. First, at that time, he didn't have enough ability to hide his true identity. It is not easy to hide your true identity in front of a group of professional killers. Second, he does not intend to be a good person who meets the requirements of the public. Being a good person is a thankless thing, especially in the magical country of America. Because of cultural differences, most people in the United States are afraid of power but not virtue. To gain their respect, the best way is not to be a good person who meets the moral requirements of the public, but to be a person with a bigger fist than them. People in this country only believe in strength. Have you had no assignments recently? Russell brushed away Perkins' right hand. If the interest comes, he doesn't mind doing something to make everyone happy with a beauty like Perkins, who is more like a model than a killer. But now, he has no such worldly thoughts for the time being. At the noon meal, Diana fed him very full and made him very satisfied. I just got back from Washington. Perkins stopped fussing with Russell and ordered a glass of whiskey from the bartender. Looking at you, the task doesn't seem to be going well. I met a lunatic, the mission failed, and I almost couldn't come back. Perkins' expression became a little dignified. Missed. Russell became a little curious. Perkins is not some new killer. When other girls were still obsessed with the handsome seniors in the school, she had already entered the killer industry. From the time she entered the industry, she was considered to be Russell's senior. Russell has done missions with her before, and knows what kind of strength she has. A lunatic who sabotaged her mission and made her almost never come back is definitely not an ordinary person. Who did it? It's the guy who calls himself the Punisher. Perkins drank the whiskey in the glass in one gulp, and said with a gloomy face, "Next time it's best not to let me run into him, or I'll definitely let him see what happens when he bullies a woman." Punisher. Hearing this, Russell was stunned for a moment. Of course he knew who the Punisher was. But the problem is that the Punisher has not had any rumors of attacking the killer before. Of course, this is only what he knows. Perhaps a fellow killer died in the hands of the Punisher early in the morning, but not many people knew about it. "What is the specific situation, can you please tell me?" Russell asked politely. Familiar is familiar. Asking about a killer's specific course of action is not a very friendly act. Every killer will have some of their own little habits, and these little habits are hidden in their action plan. In the eyes of normal people, these little habits have little value. But in the eyes of the peers, these habits are enough to become the flaws to kill each other. It's no big deal to tell you, you didn't show up much this week and missed a lot of news. Perkins lowered his voice and briefly explained his actions in a voice that only the two of them could hear. The operation is nothing special, just a normal assassination operation targeting a gangster active in Washington, D.C. The first half of the action went smoothly, and for the seasoned Perkins, it was a small daily task. But I don't know what went wrong. Just when she was about to kill the target, the Punisher appeared. The Punisher killed the target she was supposed to kill, and tried to kill Perkins. If Perkins hadn't had some skills, she wouldn't be in a bar now, but lying on a forensic workbench. You must have just met by chance, right? When the killer is on a mission, it is not very strange to meet his peers. Unless the client has only made a private single-person delegation. And even if it is a one-person entrustment, there is no doubt that he will encounter a killer sent by the target's other enemy. That's why I said you missed a lot this week. I'm not the first person to meet him. In front of me, 3 people have already died at his hands. In 1 week, 3 died. He was hunting us in a planned way. The more Paris said, the more angry he became. The killing intent on his face was almost unable to hide. Punisher systematically hunts down killers. Although this may sound a bit bizarre, if you think about it, this is indeed what a Punisher would do. Punisher is not a superhero in the normal sense, this guy is a typical anti-hero. In his concept, as long as you are guilty, you need to be obliterated. In terms of trial and sentencing, for him, there is only one criterion, and that is death. Although I don't know why the Punisher suddenly targeted the killer, Russell didn't waste time thinking about it. For the Punisher, whether it is a gangster or a killer, they are all scum of the society, and they are all targets that need to be eliminated. Change the target of punishment to a killer, may just be that he wants a change of taste. Then you should be more careful recently. Punishers are not the ones who give up easily. Russell reminded Perkins. The one who needs to be more careful is you. You are the fastest killer in recent years. He will definitely not mind getting rid of the famous Traveler. Traveler. This is Russell's code name in the killer world. Although this code name does not sound domineering, killers in New York know that this code name means a 100% mission completion rate. I don't think he has the strength to kill me. He's not the only one who wants my life, and it's no big deal to have more of him. Russell asked the bartender to add himself a glass of Glendronach 18 years old and said with a smile. For ordinary people, the Punisher is indeed very strong. But for Russell, that's all there is to it. In Majafakman Nick Fury's judgment, the Punisher is a level 10 agent, representing the highest level of normal human combat effectiveness. But unfortunately, Russell is not a normal human being. Before activating the Venom symbiote reward, he was sure to defeat the Punisher with his bare hands. With Venom, the Punisher is even less likely to be his opponent. I just like your confidence. Are you really not going to take a nap in my room? Perkins pressed his attractive body up, his red lips pressed against Russell's ear, and said softly. When she spoke, her hands were not idle either, and Russell swam around like two poisonous snakes. I don't have the habit of taking a nap. Russell pushed Perkins away again. After being rejected by Russell again, Perkins did not continue to seduce him and returned to his usual image of an iceberg beauty. After chatting with Perkins for a while, and learning about the major events in the killer world in the past week, Russell paid the bill for Perkins and left the bar. For the past week, he has been busy activating the Venom symbiote, and has not paid attention to the situation in the killer world. Apart from the fact that the Punisher seemed to be targeting the killer, he also heard a very interesting thing. Another killer organization in New York, the self-proclaimed fraternity, has a killer defection. And the one who defected from the Brotherhood was the cross of the ace killer in the Brotherhood. Although they are both killers, the killer of the Brotherhood and the killer of the Continental Hotel are completely different things. First of all, the killers of the Brotherhood did not kill for money, but for the so-called justice. Or, they think they are doing God's work. Through a magical destiny loom, God displayed the target's name through a password. What they have to do is to kill each other after the target's name appears. As for why the target died, they didn't care. All this is God's will. Then, the Brotherhood, a group of killers who don't kill for money, have a fancy gun throwing technique. A normal bullet, go straight. By looking at the muzzle, you can predict where the bullet will land. And the bullets shot by the Brotherhood killer with the slingshot can be bent or straight, front and back. These bullets can even draw circles in the air if needed. Although this is very unscientific, the world's great scientists, such as Master Dunn, Uncle Tan, and Brother D, should have been used to these things long ago, and they didn't even have the mood to open the coffin board to take a look. Isn't it just a bullet that can bend? It's no big deal. Some people can even go on a swing with a lightning bolt. Like the one from Russell's family. Before he crossed into this world, Russell had heard of the Brotherhood. The active control of spear throwing and adrenaline made his memory deep. Although he has some interest in these two abilities, after becoming a peer, he has not come into contact with the killer of the Brotherhood. They are a bunch of brainwashed guys. In the absence of clear benefits, the disadvantages of contacting them far outweigh the advantages. Sloan, the current leader of the Brotherhood, is not a good person. The defection of the cross shows that he has also discovered this. More importantly, in Russell's view, a group of people who regard the wrong silk thread woven by the loom as the mysterious language of fate are not very smart. It is normal for a textile machine made 1,000 years ago to make some mistakes when weaving silk threads. Even a computer in modern society will have some strange bugs after running for a long time. Not to mention just a 1,000-year-old antique textile machine. As for deciphering the target's name from the thread, it's nothing special. The monkey and the typewriter theorem. As long as there are enough monkeys, enough typewriters, and enough time, there will inevitably be a monkey who will type Shakespeare's Hamlet completely. This theorem may seem counterintuitive, but in mathematics it is a provable theorem. Although there is no way to reproduce the monkey and the typewriter phenomenon in real life, it is entirely possible to just let the textile machine weave the wrong silk thread and form a name in a binary manner. What's more ingenious is that this idea of the Brotherhood is still a closed logical loop that cannot be falsified. If the Brotherhood kills the target, of course the dead person can no longer have an impact on the world or other people. But in the same way, even if the target will become a good person to save the world in the future, he will not have this chance, because he has already died. The moment the Brotherhood killed the target was completely labeled as a villain. In turn, the Brotherhood did not kill the target. Then any serious consequences caused by the future of the target may be attributed to the hint of fate. Even if this serious consequence was an accident, in the eyes of the Brotherhood, it was because they did not kill according to fate's instructions. These people of the Brotherhood, in Russell's view, are like the millions of Americans who think the earth is flat. The same innocence. The Brotherhood's killers believed that a textile machine could weave the language of fate, but they couldn't be blamed too much. After all, this is a beautiful country that promotes happy education. Those millions of Americans who believe that the earth is flat are more or less talents cultivated by happy education. Russell does not doubt that there is an extraordinary power to predict the future in this world, but this extraordinary power will never appear on an antique textile machine. But then again, although the members of the Brotherhood are not very smart, he is still quite interested in the two abilities of spear throwing and adrenaline autonomous control. If there is a chance, it would be good to acquire these two abilities. Russell imagined in his mind the image of himself actively controlling the adrenaline and exploring the mysteries of the universe with Diana. It would be even more perfect if Diana wore the armor again. Just when he was thinking about it, the driver stopped the car. "Sir, the destination is ahead, I can only take you here." Why? Russell was still immersed in his beautiful imagination and did not notice the situation ahead. "Where you were going, you were stopped by the police in a fire truck." The driver of Indian origin spoke in Hindi English with an extremely pronounced accent. Forehead. Russell put the unhealthy image in his mind behind him and looked forward. The driver was right, the building he was going to has now been stopped by the police. Firefighters were evacuating the crowd in the building, and high-pressure water cannons sprayed frantically at a street-facing window on the 5th floor. Looking at the window that was still bursting with flames from time to time, Russell's face became a little ugly. The room that was on fire was his office. "Fake. 10 minutes, go back to the hotel just now, these are yours." Russell did not get out of the car, but took out 200 yuan bills from his wallet and shook them in front of the driver. "No problem, sir, sit tight. Under the reward, there must be a brave man." The Indian-born driver is a good example of this. In New York, where the traffic environment is not very good, the driver took Russell back to the Continental Hotel in less than 7 minutes. After handing over the money to the driver, Russell walked into the Continental Hotel with a gloomy face. Although he still doesn't know which burned down his office, one thing he knows very well is that he is very angry now, especially angry. An anonymous phone call from nowhere disrupts his plan to activate the Venom symbiote, causing him to play a confession game with Diana. He had just come to the Continental Hotel to look for hackers to investigate anonymous phone calls, and before he could contact the hackers, his office was set on fire. While this may just be a coincidence, Russell doesn't see it that way. He originally thought that the anonymous call would be arranged by S.H.I.E.L.D., but now it seems that Hydra is more likely. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. has some prejudice against superpowers, it is not the style of S.H.I.E.L.D. to set fire to houses. Relatively speaking, this is more like what Hydra would do. Of course, this is just Russell's guess now. He is not 100% sure whether it was the Hydra or not. After entering the hotel lobby, he went straight to Karen at the front desk, took out a gold coin, and placed it in front of Karen. "I want to know who actually set fire to my office," Russell said directly. As the direct hitman of the Continental Hotel, Karen is very clear about his identity on the bright side. Not only does Karen know, but those who know him a little know that he runs a detective agency called Octopus Monster, such as Perkins and other colleagues. "Okay, Mr. Bradley." Karen, who was dressed in a gentle manner and looked like a butler at first glance, took the gold coins and said quickly. Russell nodded, turned and sat down in the lounge area in the lobby, waiting patiently. As a killer service hotel under the high table, the Continental Hotel, of course, includes intelligence gathering. Of course, special intelligence needs to be purchased from a specialized intelligence dealer. But just to find out who burned down his office, the hotel's own intelligence network can figure out such trivial matters. Less than 10 minutes after Russell sat down, Karen, in a neat suit, came over with a piece of paper with his name on it. "Sir, this is the information you want." Karen handed Russell the paper in his hand. Russell took the paper and glanced at it, frowning. Not S.H.I.E.L.D., not Hydra, but two code names that he is not unfamiliar with. The Cross, and the Punisher. What exactly is going on? Russell asked Karen. They met by chance in the office. After a fierce battle, the two sides left, and your office burned down. Karen quickly explained. Fight in my office and then set my office on fire. Who has provoked whom in my office? Is this right for it? Russell suppressed his dissatisfaction, took out 4 gold coins from his pocket and handed them to Karen. I want to know the whereabouts of the two of them. Looking at the 4 gold coins handed over by Russell, Karen did not take them immediately. He paused for a few seconds and took 2 of them. 2 is enough. The other person you were looking for, sir, is here. After taking the 2 gold coins, Karen pointed to the door of the hotel. Looking in the direction of Karen's finger, Russell saw a cross that was somewhat out of tune with the hotel style. Cross. The ace killer of the Brotherhood. A middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance. The moment he saw the cross, the system that usually didn't have much presence suddenly popped up a message that only he could see. Reward. Destiny Assassin. Status. Inactive. Activation condition. Completion of the cross commission. Activation effect. After activation, master spear throwing and gain the ability to control adrenaline autonomously. Forehead. There was another reward that enabled activation conditions in the system, and it was a reward that he had not seen before. If it was before, Russell should be very happy. But now, he is not happy. This reward is called Assassin of Destiny, and the activation condition is to complete the commission of the cross. Although the system didn't say it clearly, as long as you think of the fact that the cross just defected from the Brotherhood, it's not hard to guess what his commission will be. Seeing that Russell was sitting in the hotel lobby, the cross quickly walked up and sat down opposite him. Sorry, I set your office on fire, and I will compensate you for all your losses. After sitting down, the cross spoke first. No, you can't compensate. Russell's office is rented, and the office furniture in it is also bought casually from IKEA, which is not worth much. The only things that are valuable are the more than 100,000 cash that he kept in the safe and the more than 20 gold coins issued by the high table. But what he has lost now is not these things on the surface, but his reputation. In the killer world, there are not many people who know his real name, and there are also many people who know that he opened a detective agency. But to this day, he is still alive and well. There is an important reason for this. That is, he has established a very domineering image outside. Don't mess with travelers. People will die. And not only will he die, but even his family, friends, neighbors, and even the neighbor's dog will be sent to see God. For this, he was also strongly condemned by a dog-loving colleague. Speaking of this dog-loving colleague, Russell oddly misses him. From this dog-loving colleague, he learned a lot of practical shooting and fighting skills. Let's say kill 3 people with 1 pencil. But unfortunately, this dog-loving colleague retired and got married last year, which caused him to lose a good student, stealing teacher. The mainstream American society has a natural exclusion, or discrimination, against the Chinese. This is especially true in the underground world that advocates the laws of blood and violence. When he first crossed into this world, Russell experienced many unpleasant things. When he first entered the industry, he could get a little less reward than others for the same task. After experiencing this kind of unfair treatment and invisible discrimination 2 or 3 times, he woke up. Being nice to people. Being polite. Lao Tzu is a killer who sacrifices his life for money. Whoever dares to deduct Lao Tzu's life-saving money, Lao Tzu will kill him. When he showed his fangs and showed the style of killing him if he didn't agree, the whole world instantly changed for the better. Those who have suffered unfair treatment and discrimination because of skin color problems have disappeared. Of course, when he showed his edge, there were still some people who didn't believe in evil, thinking that he was just bluffing, trying to use force to tell him who said it in this country. But when he packed up these people and took away their family and friends, not many people doubted this. Traveler is the killer code name he gave himself. But among other peers, his killer code name has a few small prefixes. For example, crazy travelers, tyrannical travelers, bloodthirsty travelers. The cross may compensate for the loss of his property, but it cannot compensate for the loss of his reputation. When this matter spreads out, and the cross is still alive and kicking, it won't be long before he can say goodbye to his current peaceful life. I can compensate you for your losses, all. The cross was very clear about what losses Russell suffered, but he still gave a firm answer. As for the compensation, I'll settle it with you later. Tell me, what exactly do you have to do with me? I want to entrust you to kill Sloan. Sure enough. Just as he expected, Russell guessed this when the system popped up the reward information. Sloan is the leader of the Brotherhood, and it is not easy to kill him. I would like to remind you that the minimum payment for one shot is $350,000. With a goal of Sloan's level, are you sure you can afford the payment? If it is another killer, with the skill of the cross, not to mention becoming a billionaire, there is definitely no problem in being a multi-millionaire. But the problem is, the fraternity killers are different. In their view, they are the killers of fate, they are the assassins of destiny chosen by God. Although destiny assassins sound good, God will not pay them. Compared with other killers of the same level, the Brotherhood's killers are not at all poor. This can also be seen from the weapons they use every day. If they hadn't mastered the unscientific shooting technique of throwing guns, they would be a killer organization with insufficient funds. In New York, this kind of killer organization with no money, no equipment, and not enough manpower, can easily find a dozen or so. I have more than $3 million and more than 20 high-table gold coins. As long as you kill Sloan, these are all yours. Sure, it seems that you usually take up private work a lot. The internal tasks of the fraternity are unpaid, and a small textile factory cannot have very good employee benefits. It is an honor to be able to kill for God, and it would be too vulgar to talk about the reward. The Cross can save more than $3 million and more than 20 high-level table gold coins. You don't need to ask to know that these are the rewards for his private work. I'm not interested in knowing what personal grudges you have with Sloan. But you should know that even if I take over your commission, after Sloan dies, you will die too. How did the prefixes in front of the Russell Killer codename Traveler come from? The Cross is very clear. With more than $3 million and more than 20 high-table gold coins, it was enough to buy Sloan's life. But when the office was burned down, Russell will definitely make him pay the price with his life. This has nothing to do with whether the office was burned by accident or not. The moment he and the Punisher fought in the office, they were destined to pay such a price. Because this is related to the notoriety that Russell deliberately built up, and whether he can continue his ordinary life. If you kill someone in a mainland hotel, you must be prepared to be killed by the hotel. Although Russell's firm does not have such explicit rules, unspoken rules are also rules. I know, after Sloan dies, I will give you the reward along with my life. The Cross said with a firm face. Russell didn't speak, but thought quickly. Although the Cross didn't say it, he knew exactly why the Cross did it. Nothing more than to save his trash son Wesley from the Brotherhood. Wesley clearly has the blood of a lion flowing in his body, but the Cross would rather Wesley be a sheep. His fatherly love may be very touching, but Russell does not approve of his idea. Wesley should decide which way to go. Instead of letting Wesley suppress his instincts, he would sit in a cubicle with a green hat knitted by his girlfriend and endure the workplace pua of a super obese female boss. In this life, safety is safety. But it's also foolish enough. If the Cross had not chosen this special, fatherly love, that hides and spies silently next door, Wesley would not have been fooled by the Brotherhood so easily. So in the final analysis, the situation that the Cross is facing now is caused by himself. The reward for killing Sloan will be paid first. As for your life, it will be paid after Sloan dies. Russell stated his conditions. The Cross did not bargain, and agreed immediately. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go. Russell got up immediately. Going right now. The Cross looked at Russell in surprise. What, do you still want Sloan to die after breakfast tomorrow? Russell will not put off until tomorrow what can be done today. Besides, Diana is waiting for him to go back for dinner tonight. Textile mills along the New Jersey coast. Fraternity headquarters. Russell and Cross drove a car they had just picked up, parked beside the street about a few hundred meters away from the textile factory, and looked at the closed door of the textile factory. How many killers are there who can throw guns? Russell asked casually. Although spear throwing is the trademark of the Brotherhood, it does not mean that every killer of the Brotherhood can throw spears. Spear throwing is like a high-level skill and glory. Only those elites who have passed the test are qualified to learn spear throwing. As for the ability to control adrenaline autonomously, only people with special physiques can master it. If he remembered correctly, only the Cross and Mr. X in the entire fraternity can do it. As for Wesley, judging from the time when the Cross defected from the Brotherhood, now he is either being beaten by a repairman or practicing spear throwing. If he wants to master the autonomous control of adrenaline, he still needs to practice hard. Less than 10, including Sloan. The Cross quickly returned. After speaking, he turned to look at Russell and continued, "What are you going to do?" "It's very simple. Walked in from the main entrance, saw one and killed one, until Sloan was killed." Russell took out the HKP-30L and Glock 26 he carried with him, opened the insurance, held one in each hand, and pushed the door to get out of the car. The killer of the Brotherhood is very strong for ordinary people. For Russell, it was the same thing. If it weren't for the benefit of dealing with the Brotherhood, he would have long wanted to come and see the Brotherhood's spear-throwing skills. Wonder Woman's blessing gave him a physique far beyond normal. Coupled with the ability of Venom, now he is facing the Brotherhood, he can be called Flying Dragon Riding Face. Wonder Woman's blessing, Venom symbiote, these two rewards are awesome. If you replace the Venom with anti-Venom, it will be a lore, but unfortunately you can't. But it doesn't matter, the Flying Dragon Riding the Face will not lose either. Looking at Russell walking towards the textile factory with a calm face, the expression of the Cross became a little ugly. There are so many killers in New York, but he finds Russell, of course, not because Russell has the appearance of Azu, but because Russell is strong enough. Although Russell did not admit it to the public, the killers in New York knew that he was a person with extraordinary abilities. How could a person who can easily jump 10 or 20 meters tall, lift a car with one hand, and run as fast as a sports car? A glamorous female killer like Perkins would take the initiative to seduce him, not only because of his face and figure, but also his unusual physique. The Cross didn't mind that Russell took the Brotherhood out of it, but the problem is, Wesley is also in the textile factory now. According to Russell's plan to kill one by one, Wesley will most likely become the ghost of Russell's gun. Chapter 11. The Cross didn't tell Russell the ins and outs of the matter, just didn't want Russell to know that Wesley was his son. Jarris must be reported, weeds and roots are cut. This is Russell's routine. If Russell knew that Wesley was his son, according to Russell's previous style, 80% would have killed Wesley together. He can even spare the enemy's neighbor's dog. Although Russell is still more friendly, he does not dare to gamble on the Cross. The Cross would never have thought that Russell not only knew about those little nines in his heart, but also knew it very well. In order to prevent Russell from killing Wesley, without his knowledge, the Cross did not hesitate and immediately followed. In just over 10 seconds, the Cross thought of a countermeasure. If Russell attacked Wesley, Wesley would surely die. However, if he attacked Wesley himself, with the unreasonable arc attack of the spear-throwing technique, the Cross was sure to let Wesley not die. The figure of Russell and the Cross quickly caught the attention of the Brotherhood killer. After seeing the two of them walking towards the textile factory, the Brotherhood killer standing on the fence said nothing, took out his long and short firearms, and was ready to shoot at any time. However, at this moment, Russell, who was walking leisurely towards the gate of the textile factory, suddenly forced his legs and rushed to the steel gate of the textile factory like a cannonball. Bang! The closed steel door was like being hit by a fully loaded heavy truck, and an amazing sound erupted. At the same time as the huge impact sounded, a depression several tens of centimeters wide appeared in the center of the steel gate. The next second, the steel gate was blasted out. Venom strengthens. After last night's practice and adaptation, Russell has completely mastered the Venom symbiote reward. Poisoned by Venom, an ordinary Earthling can easily lift dozens of tons of weight with strength far beyond that of a normal human being. Russell's physique is far superior to ordinary people. Using the power of Venom in this situation, his power was raised to an extremely astonishing level. He just let the Venom strengthen his right leg a little, and then kicked open the metal door of the textile factory. The Cross knew that Russell was a supernatural being. But he didn't expect that Russell's so-called walking in through the main entrance was actually such a way. Not only was the Cross stunned, but the Brotherhood killer on the fence involuntarily widened his eyes, looking at the steel gate that had been kicked away with an incredible look on his face. The steel gate was kicked away, and the surrounding walls shook like an earthquake. Is this the power of the Continental Hotel's ace killer traveler? Although the killers of the Brotherhood have not seen Russell very much, they have heard of Russell's name. She debuted 2 years ago and received an invitation from the Continental Hotel within a month of her debut. 100% mission success rate, he is domineering, and he will avenge his revenge. Russell ignored the shock of the Cross and the Brotherhood killer, raised the HKP-30L and Glock 26 in his hands, turned his head towards the Brotherhood killer on the fence and smiled. Without giving these Brotherhood killers time to react, Russell pulled the trigger decisively. Bang 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 bang. All of a sudden, the gunshots were loud and blood was flying. 1, 2, 3, 4. Russell's shooting does not seek to kill with one shot. Although a headshot is amazing, in actual combat, the conditions for achieving a headshot are too harsh. He prefers point and shoot and Mozambique shooting to precision shooting with a headshot. Speaking of which, I have to talk about his retired dog-loving former colleague. The habit of using pointed shooting and Mozambique shooting techniques is what he learned from this former dog-loving colleague. Pointed shooting is not a precise shot, but a rapid-fire shot in which the body holding the gun naturally faces the target and shoots without aiming. In the eyes of many people, directional shooting, a very low-accuracy shooting technique, is a crooked way. However, only after experiencing various complex situations such as uneven breathing, violent heartbeat, intense exercise, and the enemy's approach, can you appreciate the benefits of directional shooting. Conventional precision shooting, at a short distance, will face a very embarrassing situation. Within 7 steps, punch fast. Beyond 7 steps, the gun is fast. But for directional shooting, this awkward situation will be greatly reduced. When the visibility is low, the crosshair cannot be seen, and the enemy is too close, directional shooting is much better than precision shooting. It's a bit like when I was young, I didn't know that thick legs were good, and mistakenly regarded chopsticks as treasures. Although directional shooting can deal with various complex situations at short distances, the accuracy is not enough, which is always a shortcoming of directional shooting. Therefore, at this time, Mozambique shooting technique is needed. Mozambique shooting is an easy-to-understand shooting technique. In simple terms, it is to fire 2 or 3 shots at the torso with a larger area and easier to hit, and finally shoot a headshot. The torso has a large bomb area and is most likely to be hit. Hit the torso first, which can effectively reduce the enemy's ability to move. Finally, make up for a headshot attack on the head, completely kill each other. For gamers, Mozambique shooting is to hit hard and straight, and then crit. In addition to wasting more bullets, Mozambique shooting can be said to be a highly efficient shooting technique. Mozambique shooting is actually a combination of directional shooting and precise shooting. Russell once admired the actual combat scene of his former dog-loving colleague's Mozambican shooting technique. The scene was not ordinary. Although both point and shoot and Mozambique are very useful marksmanship, they also have a small limitation. That is, these two types of shooting are more suitable for close combat. If the distance is too far, it is better to use precision shooting obediently. Russell's long-range precision shooting level is not very high, which is the level of a normal killer. But this problem will soon be resolved. After he gets the reward of Destiny Assassin, he will be able to obtain the unreasonable spear-throwing technique. At that time, his long-range shooting level will be significantly improved. As soon as the Cross rushed into the textile factory, Russell had already killed 7 or 8 of the Brotherhood killers on the fence. At this time, he was continuing to kill along the wall, and one after another Brotherhood killer fell at his feet. Just as he was about to finish killing the Brotherhood killers on the fence and was about to enter the textile factory along the passage of the fence, a bullet flew in front of him from the textile factory with an astonishing arc that did not conform to science. Boom! The bullet that flew in the arc hit Russell's temple precisely, and the huge impact made his head crooked. A perfect shot. No matter the angle of the attack or the timing of the shot, this shot is perfect. Coupled with the unreasonable arc attack of the spear-throwing technique, there is nothing wrong with this shot. Both the Fox who shot and the Cross who witnessed the shot made such a judgment. Even Russell had to admit that this shot was indeed of a very high standard. Under the influence of the impact of the bullet, his head tilted to the side, and his body fell in the same direction. However, just when everyone thought he had been shot dead, he regained his footing. This shot, it hurts a little bit. After stabilizing his figure, Russell did not hesitate. His legs suddenly exerted force, and rushed into the interior of the textile factory through the passage of the fence. It was not until his figure disappeared completely that the Cross and the Fox who shot him reacted. Not dead. Russell, who was shot in the temple, didn't die. Although they knew that Russell was a superpower, they didn't expect that Russell could actually resist bullets with his body. What surprised them even more was that there was no mention of this in the information about Russell. Except for Russell himself, everyone who knew that he could use his body to resist bullets, without exception, were all killed by him. Even Diana, who shared his bed with him, didn't know this. Flesh resists bullets. It was only a year ago that Russell knew that he had such abilities. Speaking of this, I have to complain about his golden finger system. His system not only has no sense of existence at ordinary times, but also is not at all humane. Reward: Wonder Woman's blessing. Activation effect. After activation, you will gain a physique that is far beyond that of a normal person and possess a weak demigod power. The system's description of the activation effect is only a short sentence. Other than that, there is nothing. If it wasn't for the accident a year ago that caused him to be surrounded and shot by various long guns and short cannons, he would never have found that he could physically resist bullets. Strength, speed, physical strength, these attributes, even if they are not injured, they can still be detected in normal life. Only the attribute of defensive power is a little bit difficult to confirm. It's not that Russell hasn't confirmed what kind of defense his extraordinary physique has, but at most he just uses a knife or the like to test it casually. He had no intention of shooting himself, never. It was not until the accident a year ago that he discovered that he could physically resist bullets to a certain extent. Why to a certain extent? The reason is simple: because he hasn't tested his physical defense limit. Again, he had no intention of shooting himself. Although he didn't know what his physical defense limit was, he was certain that common pistols and rifles could not cause fatal damage to him. The pain will definitely hurt. But he has never experienced anything like being shot through his body. In the past, he had no way to test his physical defense limit. But after activating the Venom symbiote reward, he can completely test his defense limit. Venom can make the host have super healing ability. If the limbs are cut off, the heart is pierced, and the stomach is cut open, it can be cured instantly. Even if it is mashed into flesh or broken up, as long as you have enough time, you can gradually recover. With Venom, even if he does some cruel tests on himself, he doesn't need to worry about playing himself to death. But even so, he didn't have the idea of testing his own limits by self-mutilating. Healing is healing, but pain is really painful. He's not a masochist. He doesn't have a perverted mentality that gets more and more excited. But then again, if Diana was in a special environment, wearing a special armor and whipping him with a small leather whip, he should still feel excited from the pain. After rushing into the textile factory, Russell put away the pistol. Venom form. With a silent recitation in his heart, black creeping special biological tissues like tentacles and mucus poured out of his body. In the blink of an eye, Russell, who was 1.8 meters tall, turned into a black humanoid monster more than 2 meters tall. Sharp teeth, long red tongue, and huge white eyes. A strong black humanoid body, hands like sharp claws, and white lines like tendons on his body. This isn't the first time Russell has performed systemic poisoning. Last night, he performed several body poisonings in the second bedroom. When he enters this form like a complete body of Venom, he will have a wonderful feeling that the body's functions are infinitely magnified. His already astonishing extraordinary physique has been strengthened by Venom, reaching an unbelievably terrifying level. This kind of feeling is not an ordinary top. The Venom liquefies all over his body, allowing him to unleash the full power of the Venom. But the shortcomings are also obvious. In this state, high temperature and ultrasonic waves will become his weak points. There are many more Brotherhood killers in the textile factory than outside. Just as Russell turned into Venom, bullets came to him like a torrential rain. Russell, who had turned into a Venom, did not dodge or evade, and let the bullet hit his body. There was no suspense. The bullets that hit his body were bounced off one by one, causing him no harm. After seeing that the bullet couldn't hurt Russell, who had turned into a black monster, these Brotherhood killers who shot him showed incredible expressions. Russell didn't give them the time to be shocked. With a slight force on his legs, he jumped high and swooped towards the nearest enemy like a beast. In the past, Russell did not like close combat very much. Although he has an extraordinary physique, he still likes to use firearms to deal with enemies. But now, he gradually liked the feeling of tearing the enemy with both hands. Just a random wave of his hand can easily cut through the bodies of these Brotherhood killers. With a little force, his claws-like hands could easily pierce through their bodies. Now, He doesn't need to use any fighting skills, just swing his claws like a beast, and he can easily take away the lives of these Brotherhood killers. Bright red blood splattered everywhere, and stumps and broken arms could be seen everywhere. Painful howls came one after another. This is not a battle, but a one-sided slaughter, a raw slaughter. Russell didn't let these Brotherhood killers suffer for too long, and he tried his best to kill those who could be killed in one hit. As for those Brotherhood killers who were more fortunate, but were slashed or their limbs were cut off, and fell to the ground and wailed in pain, black tentacles sprouted from Russell's body, piercing their heads like spears. In just a minute or two, the Brotherhood killers in the factory building on the first floor lined up to report to Hell Lord Mephisto. After Russell eliminated all the killers in the factory, the cross came to him who was not human at all. Sloane's office is on the second floor. The cross looked at the corpses scattered all over the factory with some reluctance. Just a week ago, these people were still his colleagues. But now, they have turned into horrible corpses. The cross is not a sentimental person, but the scene in front of him still made him a little sigh. Humans are really fragile. The killers killed by Russell now are all ordinary members of the Brotherhood. Abbreviation, make up the numbers. Only those killers who have mastered the art of throwing spears and possess some special skills can be regarded as the elite killers of the Brotherhood. For example, the Fox, the Repairman, the Butcher, the Gunsmith, Mr. X, etc. Russell did not release the venom form. Just when he was about to go to the second floor, a cell phone rang suddenly. Wait for me, I'll answer the phone. Roger removed part of the venom form on his head, revealing half of his face. Under his control, the mobile phone he put in his pocket poured out of his body in the form of venom, and was wrapped around by black tentacles and held to his ear. After manipulating the black tentacles and pressing the answer, an electronically disguised man's voice sounded on the phone. Hello, Mr. Traveler, I'm a hacker from the Rising Tide organization. You can call me Jack. Jack's attitude was very polite. I'm a little busy right now, so I'll make a long story short. I want you to find a phone number for me. I want to know who is behind this number, and the reward is $50,000. Russell said bluntly, not caring that the cross was by his side now. Okay, what's the number? Jack asked. Looking up a number is not difficult for the Rising Tide organization. The $50,000 reward is not bad for the difficulty. Jack has no reason to refuse. Russell told Jack the anonymous phone number that Diana received yesterday. According to the regulations, I need to charge half of the deposit first. Jack said again. Okay, send me the account. As soon as Russell finished speaking, he received a bank account from Jack. Without any hesitation, he directly logged into his overseas bank account and transferred $50,000 from it. Mr. Traveler, we only charge half of the deposit in advance. After seeing Russell turn over the pay all at once, Jack reminded him. I know, I just don't want to transfer money twice. After speaking, Russell directly hung up the phone and let the black tentacle put the phone back into his body. Okay, let's go. After getting this sudden episode, Russell returned to his full venom form. Textile factory, second floor. Sloane's office. In the office, which was decorated like a study, all the backbones of the Brotherhood gathered. With a neat suit, jacket, vest, tie, and tie clip, Sloane, who looked no different from a successful entrepreneur, sat behind the desk with a dignified expression and said nothing. In front of him stood the Fox, Gunsmith, Repairman and other Brotherhood elites. And Wesley, an apprentice killer who hasn't graduated yet. The expressions of Fox and the others were similar to those of Sloane, their faces were solemn. Only Wesley, who didn't realize the seriousness of the matter at all, was extremely excited. Glancing at Fox and the others, Sloane said slowly, the Cross not only defected from the Brotherhood, but now he wants to completely destroy the Brotherhood. In order to achieve this goal, he even cooperated with the notorious traveler Russell. It has been more than 1,000 years since the Brotherhood was established, and today may be the last day of the Brotherhood. The Cross used to be the best among us, and the traveler Russell is also the most famous killer in recent years, but even if the two of them join forces, don't try to easily destroy the Brotherhood. Where is the Destiny textile machine, there is the Brotherhood. Speaking of which, Sloane clapped the table, stood up, and said in a very serious tone, everyone, we are the killers of Destiny, the assassins of Destiny chosen by God. Today is our best chance to prove ourselves. Even if we sacrifice our lives, we must protect the Destiny textile machine that has been passed down from generation to generation. Go, tell the Cross and Russell with the weapons in your hands, and let them know, Brotherhood, never back down. Sloane carried out the final pre-war mobilization with impassioned enthusiasm. In fact, even if he doesn't say a word now, Fox and the others will fight to the death. Especially Wesley. He wanted to kill the Cross immediately to avenge his dead father. After Fox and the others left the office with a murderous intent, Sloane sat down again and sighed helplessly. The Cross should be beaten, and Russell should be beaten. Until now, Sloane couldn't figure out what kind of reward the Cross gave to convince Russell to go crazy with him. Two people dared to break into the headquarters of the Brotherhood, and they really broke into it. After cursing the Cross and Russell in his heart, Sloane opened the drawer and took out the old-fashioned Mauser pistol inside. Then, he got up and walked to a bookshelf, and opened the secret door behind the bookshelf. Unstoppable, just a Cross forced them to find Wesley. And now, there is not only the Cross outside, but also Russell, who can't be killed by a gun in the temple. In this situation, Sloane doesn't see any chance of winning. Don't look at his generosity in mobilizing the Fox and others, but he never thought of using his life to protect the Destiny textile machine. Use his life to protect an antique textile machine that wants to kill him. Do not make jokes. Destiny textile machine, go to the ghost. I am the Destiny. On the day he found out that his name was woven by the Destiny loom, Sloane's belief completely collapsed, from one extreme to the other. Fox and the others would never have thought that Sloane, who had inspired them to protect the Destiny textile machine with his life just now, is now sneaking out of the textile factory through a secret passage. Not long after Sloane entered the secret passage, there were intermittent gunshots from outside. You don't need to think about it. This is the Fox and they fought the Cross and Russell. After hearing the gunshots, Sloane increased his speed. In the dark and damp underground passage, Sloane walked fast. Not long after, he came to the exit of the passage. Crack! Sloane pushed open the iron door that had not been opened for some time, and walked out of the passage. Before he had time to experience the joy of escaping, a voice came from behind him. Mr. Sloane, running away is not what a good leader should do. The speaker was none other than Russell. After hanging up Jack's phone, he did not follow the Cross to the second floor, but left the factory directly. The Cross, the Fox and others didn't know that Sloane had a secret escape route. But Russell just happened to know that. Although he didn't know where Sloane's escape exit was, it didn't matter. Because he doesn't need to know where the exit is at all. After leaving the factory, he walked along the outer wall to the window of Sloane's office. He not only witnessed Sloane's impassioned pre-war mobilization, he also witnessed the whole process of Sloane opening the secret door of the bookshelf and leaving the study. The next thing is very simple. He broke the window into the study, opened the secret door, and quietly followed behind Sloane. The environment of the underground passage was dark, and he did not make any sound in the form of venom. Sloane didn't notice it at all, just more than 10 meters behind him, followed by a huge black figure. Russell could actually kill Sloane early on. But he didn't do it. Killing Sloane directly from behind is a bit too cheap for him. So he deliberately waited until Sloane walked out of the passage before taking the initiative to remind Sloane. When the enemy is happiest, give him despair again. It's the most memorable thing when it falls short. Turn around, draw your gun, aim, shoot. Let the clouds flow, all in one go. Although Sloane is a little old, he is still very good at it, even better than most fraternity killers. In this flash of time, he even completed some tactical thinking and aimed at Venom Russell's left eye. Eyes, for most creatures, are the key. Attacking the eyes of the target, if not the most correct choice, is definitely one of the wise choices. Not to mention, Russell in the form of Venom has a pair of eyes that are bigger than a normal person's fist. On the black head, the pair of big, white eyes are no different from Bullseye. Facing the extremely fast bullet, Russell did not dodge, as if he had no time to react. He stood on the spot and let the bullet hit his left eye. Got it. Seeing that the bullet hit Russell's left eye with precision, Sloane couldn't help but flash a little bit of joy in his heart. However, the next second, he was not happy at all. The bullet that hit Venom Russell's left eye was easily squeezed out like toothpaste. There were no scars on the white left eye that looked soft and had an excellent feel. Compared to the body that can deflect bullets directly, the defense of the eyes is indeed a little weaker. But that doesn't mean Sloane can pierce Venom Russell's head with a Mauser pistol. The bullet did penetrate into the left eye, but only a little bit. This damage, for Russell in the form of Venom, can be completely recovered without even a fraction of a second. Russell didn't give Sloane a second chance. At the same time, 5 tentacle-like black tentacles gushed out from his body, wrapped around Sloane's limbs and neck like a python, and lifted him up. "Mr. Sloane, it's not suitable for conversation here. Let's go back to the channel and talk." Russell released the poison in his head, revealing his true appearance, and said slowly. After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Sloane to answer. He carried Sloane back to the underground passage, and closed the iron door of the passage. Sloane is definitely going to kill. The 2 abilities of spear throwing and adrenaline autonomous control, he was certain. However, before killing Sloane, he still has some small experiments to do. Some small experiments on Venom's abilities. Although he now possesses all the abilities behind Venom's possession, what he possesses is not a real symbiote after all. Compared with the systems of other traversers, his system is not at all considerate, and it can even be said to be a bit perfunctory. The fact that he can physically resist bullets is a good example. Since the system is too lazy to explain these, he can only test it himself. Among Venom's many superpowers, he is particularly interested in one: gene duplication. When the Venom is possessed by the host, as long as it reaches a certain duration of possession, the ability of the host can be replicated through genes. Let's say Deadpool's self-healing ability and Spider-Man's superpower. This is a potential ability, and if used properly, it can even become a stable source of new abilities. Although Venom can only replicate the abilities related to the body, and there is a time limit for attachment, it still does not affect gene replication, which is a potential ability. If what he has now is the real Venom, Russell will not have the idea of testing. But unfortunately, what he has now is not Venom in the true sense. In order to avoid the situation of not knowing his own abilities again, he planned to use Sloane to test it himself. First of all, Sloane is a normal Earth human. This means that it doesn't take too long to possess his abilities to replicate his abilities through genes. Secondly, Sloane mastered the extraordinary ability of spear throwing. Although the spear throwing technique is not the same as the extraordinary abilities produced by those genetic mutations, it cannot be denied that the spear throwing technique is indeed an extraordinary ability. However, this is an extraordinary ability that can be acquired through learning. In the end, Sloane wouldn't turn down his test. Sloane was so happy that he was speechless. His face was full of happiness. Glancing at Sloane's current appearance, Russell loosened the tentacles around Sloane's neck a little. In addition to the ability to test gene replication on Sloane, he has another small question. He wanted to know whether the symbiote that split from himself would fully inherit the symbiote's abilities and would be under his control. Still that question: the Venom he has now is not really Venom. If what he has is real Venom, he can completely transfer the Venom from himself to Sloane. But the problem is, what he has is not real Venom. So, this is also a question that requires a test to know the answer. A test target can get 2 test results. In this regard, Sloane is certainly a good test target. How much the cross gave you? As long as you let me go, I can give you double. Sloane, whose breathing was no longer oppressed, started a very old-fashioned double-price bribe. Don't give up, you can't pay double what he gave you. The commission of the cross is directly related to the rewards given by the system. No matter what, Sloane could not give double this reward. You don't have to worry too much, I won't do some cruel things to you. If all goes well, you can experience a wonderful feeling. After being possessed by the symbiote, you can experience the wonderful feeling of the bodily functions skyrocketing. The excitement brought about by that feeling is similar to that of a beggar who suddenly won the 5 million jackpot. Russell has experienced it several times, but when he carries out the poisoning of the whole body, he will still be a little stimulated. After speaking, he manipulated the black tentacles again, wrapping Sloane's neck tightly, lest he wait to continue asking questions or yelling. Okay, time is limited, let's get started. Now Russell, only the head is the appearance of a normal human, and the body still maintains the poisonous liquid. The demon-like body and the black tentacles gushing out of his body, coupled with the fear on Sloane's face and the dark environment in the tunnel, look evil no matter what. More than 10 minutes later, Russell, who had already got the answer, did not hesitate, manipulated the black tentacles, and twisted Sloane's neck. With just a click, Sloane's eyes completely lost their light. When Sloane died, the system information that only he could see popped up. Reward: Assassin of Destiny. Status: activated. Activation condition: complete the commission of the cross. Activation effect: after activation, master the art of throwing guns and gain the ability to control adrenaline autonomously. After seeing the message popped up by the system, Russell whistled in satisfaction. Sloane's selfless cooperation allowed him to get the test results he wanted, and he successfully replicated the extraordinary ability of spear throwing. But that's not what really makes him happy. What really made him happy was the spear throwing technique given by the system. Spear throwing is an extraordinary ability that can be acquired through learning. Except that the bullet will bend, there is no essential difference between the throwing and other shooting techniques. This also means that even if they all know how to throw the spear, the power of the throwing technique displayed by different people will be different. With the same shooting technique, some people can shoot fairly accurately, while others are just a little bit worse. This may be a difference in talent, or it may be a difference in the level of effort. Although the system did not clearly state the level of the spear throwing technique brought by the Destiny Assassin reward, as long as you compare it with the spear throwing technique copied from Sloane, you can clearly find the gap between the two. To put it simply, Sloane's spear throwing technique simply can't compare to the system rewarded spear throwing technique. The gap between the two is just as difficult as accurately hitting the 10-meter bullseye and accurately hitting the 50-meter bullseye. After receiving the system reward of throwing the gun, the mid-range shooting accuracy of the Russell marksmanship has been significantly improved. If he gains the ability to snipe from a distance, then he has no shortcomings in the field of shooting. In fact, his current level of long-range sniping is not bad, similar to that of a normal human sniper. However, in this world with extraordinary abilities, the sniping level of normal humans can only be regarded as not holding back, and it is not an ability that can be achieved at all. After testing the high-level gunslinger rewarded by the system in the dimly lit underground passage, Russell performed the poisoning of his entire body again and returned to Sloane's study along the passage. Sloane is dead, but it's not over yet. If he doesn't want to be harassed by the Brotherhood's killers in the future, he has to send all the Brotherhood's members to hell. Textile factory. Factory building on the first floor. At this time, the Cross not only failed to solve the Fox and others to rescue Wesley, but was even beaten by the Fox and others to the second floor and forced back to the factory building on the first floor. To make matters worse, he is still injured now. He is indeed the best killer in the fraternity, but that doesn't mean he can fight a group one by one. The Fox and the gunsmith on the opposite side are equally good at throwing spears. The only good thing is that Wesley doesn't know how to throw a gun yet. Otherwise, whether he can return from the second floor to the first floor is a problem. Through the burst of adrenaline, he successfully killed the repairman and the butcher and others, and returned to the first floor workshop only at the cost of his left arm injury. Now, there are only the last 5 members of the Brotherhood, including Wesley, who is still in the trainee stage. Of the 5 remaining Brotherhood killers, Wesley was obviously the weakest. But now he is attacking the most violent one, with an aura of fighting for his life. She was sold, and she is still paying for it. This is the best description of Wesley now. Although the strength of the Cross is much stronger than that of Wesley, there is no way he can kill his own son, so he can only choose to back down. His concession made Wesley even more excited, as if he could immediately avenge his dead father with his own hands. The Cross was hid behind the textile machine, unable to lift his head, and bullets flew towards him from all angles. Just when the Cross was about to be unable to withstand the bullets fired by the Fox and the gunsmith through the spear-throwing technique, there was a sudden loud noise from the ceiling of the factory building. Boom! The solid ceiling shattered as if it had been hit by a cannonball, and a huge gap appeared. The broken masonry and beams fell from the sky like raindrops and smashed into the factory building. The sudden shattering of the ceiling immediately attracted everyone's attention. The Cross, the Fox, and the others all looked up at the broken ceiling, hurriedly avoiding the rubble that fell from the sky. The person who smashed the ceiling was none other than Russell in Venom form. After returning to Sloane's study, he did not choose to attack the fox and others from behind, but chose a more dazzling appearance. A superhero landing. The black monster-like venom Russell fell from the sky like a meteor and landed in the factory building, leaving a huge impact crater on the solid ground. The shock wave brought by the landing blew up the surrounding textile machines. The dust was flying all over the sky, and the scene was a mess. After seeing Russell on the stage, the Cross, the Fox and others immediately made different choices. The Fox and the gunsmith, without any hesitation, flicked their wrists, and the bullet drew a beautiful arc and flew towards Russell with lightning. The Cross also raised his right hand and flicked his wrist, displaying an extremely skilled spear-throwing technique. Unlike Fox and others, the Cross did not attack Russell, but aimed at Wesley. Bang 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 bang. The gunshots are loud. The bullets fired by the Cross, the Fox and others hit the target at almost the same time. Although they both hit their targets, the effects are completely different. The bullet that hit Russell was thrown away without any suspense, without causing any damage to him. And the bullet fired by the Cross hit Wesley's chest with precision. The bullet entered Wesley's chest and flew out from the back, bringing out a prominent line of blood. Wesley fell to the ground, his face full of unwillingness. The Fox, the gunsmith and others never thought that the Cross would actually kill Wesley at this time. Just when they were amazed, a huge black shadow appeared in front of them. Scoff. Russell in the form of venom burst out with amazing speed. Like a ghost, he came to the Fox, the gunsmith and others in an instant. Without giving them time to react, claws-like hands swung out one after another. The tall black killer gunsmith was the first to be hit. His strong body was as fragile as a cream cake in front of Russell's right paw. With little effort, the gunsmith, an elite killer of the Brotherhood, was torn in half by Russell. The bright red blood, the broken internal organs, the screams of the gunsmith, the shock of the Fox and others. The original and scene was staged in the ruined factory building. After easily killing the gunsmith, Russell threw his upper and lower body aside with a flick of his hands, like throwing away garbage. The next second, the right hand, still stained with the gunsmith's blood, grabbed the Fox's neck and lifted her up. Fox is one of the few female killers in the Brotherhood, and the most beautiful among them. If the Fox hadn't been a killer, with her beauty and figure, she would have no problem going to Hollywood to be a female star. She has a good figure, attractive appearance, and also has the temperament of a royal sister that seems to be innate. For someone like her, being a female killer is a bit too wasteful. Russell habitually looked at the Fox's appearance and figure. Then, when the Fox tried to raise the gun to shoot, his right hand twisted slightly. Click. Without hesitation, Russell broke the Fox's neck. Under normal circumstances, Russell is a gentleman who cherishes fragrance and jade. But this is only under normal circumstances. If she has already become an enemy, and let her go because the enemy is beautiful, then it is not a matter of pity for Shangshiu but a water in the brain. While twisting the Fox's neck, Russell's left hand spewed out black tentacles, wrapping around the last two Brotherhood killers like a python. Click. The sound of two crisp bones breaking sounded. Without any hesitation, Russell ended the lives of the two Brotherhood killers. At this point, in the entire factory building on the first floor, the only people still standing were him and the Cross. If they are still alive, then add the seriously injured Wesley in a coma. After throwing away the Fox's body, Russell looked back at the Cross. During the siege, although the Cross suffered some injuries, it was not fatal. Apart from looking a little embarrassed, he still retains most of his fighting power. However, he is very clear that even if he is in his prime, he is absolutely impossible to be Russell's opponent. Russell, who is still in a human state, can already resist bullets physically. After the body's poison is liquefied, let alone bullet resistance, even if it is resistant to artillery shells, there is no problem. The Cross pretended to be sighing, and glanced at the factory building full of corpses. Although his movements were very concealed, Russell still noticed that when he glanced at Wesley, his eyes stayed for a few tenths of a second. Although the current Wesley appears to be dead, there is obviously still some time away from the real death. As long as he gets treatment before he loses too much blood, it won't be long before Wesley is alive and kicking again. The Cross can become the ace killer of the Brotherhood, relying on that superb spear-throwing technique. The operation of being injured without dying is not difficult for him. After scanning the messy factory building, the Cross threw away the pistol as if resigned, spread out his hands, and said very calmly, "Mr. Russell, my life is yours." Russell did not kill the Cross immediately, but controlled the symbiote on his head, revealing half of his face. "Are you so sure I've killed Sloan? Crazy traveler, a debt must be repaid. Sloan's life should not be enough for you to break the principle." The Cross looked at Russell with only half of his face showing calmly. "Yeah, crazy traveler, you must pay your debts," Russell said with a smile. Just when the Cross was about to close his eyes to meet his own death, Russell's voice sounded again. "Since you know this sentence, you should be very clear that I never leave myself a potential enemy." The expression of the Cross changed, and the calm expression disappeared. Before he could say anything, Russell stretched out his right hand, and the black tentacle rope flew out and wrapped around Wesley's body. Wesley, who was injured and comatose, was brought over like a puppet. In order to save his son's life, he did not hesitate to seriously injure his only son. "You are also a good father." At the same time as he spoke, the black tentacles wrapped around Wesley began to merge with Wesley and possessed him to a certain extent. Russell has just tested it with Sloan. Although he has no way to split up an independent symbiote to attach to other people, as long as the connection is not completely cut off, he can control the symbiont to attach to other people to a certain extent. It's a bit like a puppet master controlling a puppet. As long as he controls the symbiote to possess others, he can control these possessed people just like manipulating puppets. When the symbiote on the tentacles attached to Wesley, who was shot through the chest by the bullet, quickly woke up. The wounds on his body were also completely healed by the symbiote. The moment he opened his eyes, Wesley's first reaction was to raise his gun and shoot. However, he was firmly bound by the black tentacles and possessed by the symbiote, let alone raising his right hand to shoot, even his fingers could not move freely. "I'm not a good person, but I'm not a devil either. Before you die, I don't mind giving you a chance to recognize father and son." Boom! The Destiny textile machine, which was placed in the core area of the textile factory, ushered in its destruction and was blown to pieces by Russell's bomb. After disposing of the Destiny textile machine, which was regarded as a sacred object by the Brotherhood, Russell left the textile factory through a secret passage in Sloane's study. Cross and Wesley are dead, all the members of the Brotherhood are dead, and the Destiny loom is bombed. The Brotherhood of Killers that existed for thousands of years was officially destroyed. Hell's Kitchen, the octopus detective agency that has been burned to ruins. Looking at the office that accompanied him through his first days as a detective, Russell sighed slightly. After leaving the textile factory, he took a taxi back to Hell's Kitchen. At the textile factory, there will naturally be police to deal with. When he came out of the dark passage, he saw a lot of police cars rushing to the textile factory with sirens blaring. After finding the blackened safe from the wreckage of the burnt bookcase, he began to enter the code. Fortunately, he chose a safe with a mechanical combination lock instead of an electronic combination lock. Otherwise, now he may have to consider violently dismantling the safe. Click. Perhaps because the fire didn't last long, the cash and gold coins in the safe were safe. As soon as he took out the cash and gold coins, the landlord came to the office anxiously. The landlord is a white man in his 50s, his name is Sean, he is unemployed, he makes a living by collecting rent, and he owns this building. Unlike other landlords, he is a very interesting guy. Other landlords set aside a fixed number of days each month to collect rent. Sean is different. From the 1st to the 31st, he will charge 1 or 2 rents every day. How much rent is received on that day, how much is spent on that day. Repeat it the next day. In his words, it gives him a sense of being at work, and every day is a payday. Oh my God, this is so bad. I told Susan yesterday that your office setup looks as good as my grandmother's cream cake. I bet she's never seen a firm better than yours. A better-looking detective agency. Sean said in his usual exaggerated tone. The Susan he mentioned was his wife. A Russian woman who looked like a Victoria's Secret model when she was young, but was as strong as a wrestler after marriage. Find someone to renovate this place. Is there any spare room upstairs? Russell took out 3 stacks of cash and put it in Sean's hand. Sean looked at the cash in his hand, looked at Russell again, and nodded. Before the decoration was finished, I was working on it, and the extra money was the rent for the room upstairs. Russell patted Sean on the shoulder and left the ruined office with the remaining cash and gold coins. Manhattan, Sky Apartments. After handing over the restoration office to the landlord, Sean, and leaving him enough funds for restoration, Russell drove his Porsche 911 home. Although he happened to pass by the American Museum of Natural History where Diana went to work on the way home, Russell had no plans to pick up Diana from get off work. First of all, Diana had a car herself. Second, Diana didn't like Russell picking her up from get off work. Russell once went to pick up Diana several times when they just became boyfriend and girlfriend, but before they moved in together. But Diana always felt that this would trouble Russell. So, Diana, who has a tendency to be a big heroine, discussed this issue with Russell very seriously. From then on, unless it's already an appointment to go out on a date at night. Otherwise, both Russell and Diana would drive back to the apartment alone. After returning to the apartment, Russell first took a comfortable hot bath, changed clothes that were not stained with any blood or dust, washed himself cleanly, and patiently waited for Diana's return. It doesn't matter whether the clothes are dirty or not. The key is that after killing someone, Russell always feels that he has some invisible blood on his body. Although this is only a psychological effect, if conditions permit, he will change the clothes he wore when killing as soon as possible, and throw the changed clothes away. Because of this little habit, he even spent more money on clothes than Diana. The wardrobe at home also had an anomalous picture of his clothes taking up most of the space. After washing up, he whistled into the kitchen and started to prepare dinner tonight. Most of the time, Diana prepared dinner. But he occasionally cooks to change his taste. The food culture of the beautiful country is a bit too barren. After eating for a while, it is easy to get tired. Because the knife skills learned in melee combat are equally easy to use in the kitchen. Russell happily prepared dinner. Just when he was about to prepare the homemade 4 dishes and 1 soup, Diana returned home. Because of his constant planting, Diana not only fell in love with the food culture of the flower grower, but also taught herself a lot of home cooking. Today's Diana is wearing a small brown leather jacket with a black deep V-bottoming t-shirt, revealing eye-catching ravines. She was wearing black jeans, which perfectly showed her slender and straight legs and round buttocks. The high-heeled boots under her feet made Diana, who was already 175 in height, appear taller and more heroic. Fortunately, Russell was tall enough, otherwise he wouldn't have dared to walk with Diana in high heels. As soon as she entered the door, Diana smelled the aroma of rice. The fireworks in ordinary life. That's what Diana likes. Welcome home. Before crossing, Russell had fantasized about some beautiful cohabitation or married life scenarios. For example, after a day's work, there is a gentle and lovely little girlfriend wife at home waiting for him to come home. In the kitchen, soup is cooking and dinner is ready. The little girlfriend wife is lying on the sofa in the living room, reading a book, or teasing the cat. When you get home, say welcome home to yourself, and then come up and give yourself a warm hug. Pity. This scene had never appeared before he crossed over. Instead, after he came to this world, he experienced this image in his fantasy. The only difference is that there is no cat in the house, and it is not a gentle and pleasant little girlfriend who is waiting for him to come home, but a heroic and valiant big lady, Sister Yu. Although it was somewhat different from the picture in his fantasy, he was content. Diana showed a gentle smile, stepped forward quickly, and gave Russell a hug. Satisfied, they handed over the dishwashing work that most easily affected their relationship to the dishwasher. Russell and Diana sat on the sofa in the living room, leaning against each other and sharing their experiences. What Diana shares are always trivial things. For example, what interesting things happened in the museum today, what interesting tourists I met, and what antiques were sent for research. Although Diana shared little things, Russell listened carefully every time. When there is no commission, he will also share some small things with Diana. But when there is a commission, he will chat with Diana about the commission. The reason why he talked to Diana about the commission was because he heard about the tragic experience of a fellow killer. This colleague is not the killer of the Continental Hotel, but a member of other killer organizations. His name is John Smith. His wife, Jane Smith, is also a killer, but belongs to another killer group. What's more, Jane's killer organization and John's killer organization are just deadly enemies. It is because they never shared each other's real work experience that they only discovered each other's true identity after 5 or 6 years of marriage. But at that time, it was too late, they almost killed each other, and their organization decided to get rid of them together. Although they finally killed the killer sent by the organization and destroyed their respective organizations, their lives were inevitably affected. Russell was not worried that the Continental Hotel would arrange a killer to deal with him. He just didn't want his relationship with Diana to be unnecessarily affected by concealing his true work. He is very satisfied with Diana's girlfriend, and has no plans to break up at all. I've heard of the Brotherhood. If you kill them like this, will there be any trouble? Although Diana used to pretend to be an ordinary person, she was not an ordinary person after all. She didn't become a superhero in New York, which doesn't mean she doesn't know anything about the underground world in New York. What's more, she also has Russell, a cohabiting boyfriend who is both a detective and a killer. There won't be any big trouble. The Brotherhood is an alternative in the killer world, and my domineering reputation in the industry is not a day or two. At most, some people will think that what I have done is a little too much. Russell was not at all worried about the trouble the Brotherhood would cause him. Compared with the Brotherhood, he cared more about the Punisher who didn't know where to hide. According to the saying of the Cross, the Punisher was specially directed at him. It's just that at that time he happened to be out of the office, so the Cross became the target of the Punisher. He and the Cross are both killers, and both are the targets of the Punisher during this period of time. What are you going to do with that Punisher? Diana changed her posture, resting her head on Russell's thigh, and said slowly. Find a chance to kill him, he's a ticking time bomb. If we leave him alone, next time he might just shoot our house with a bazooka. The Punisher is not a pure bad guy, but if you want to talk about his good guy, he isn't even a bad guy. To a certain extent, he and Russell are the same kind of people, who have chosen to use violence to control violence. But there is one thing that Russell is better than him, that is, Russell is not as extreme as he is, and he will not make actions that as long as you are guilty, you must die. Pay attention to safety. He has survived until now, which shows that his strength will not be too bad. Don't underestimate the enemy. Diana didn't think there was anything wrong with Russell trying to kill the Punisher. Although murder is not a good thing, it also depends on who is killed. Diana never had the so-called virgin heart. Although the education method of Paradise Island is a bit backward, there is one thing that is good in Paradise Island's education, that is, only dead enemies are good enemies. Showing mercy to the enemy is not only joking with your own life, but also joking with the lives of your family and friends. Although Diana has only been in this world for 4 years, she has lived in the human society of the 600th world next door for decades. She is not uncommon for a series of things caused by the so-called human rights. If Russell was going to kill an ordinary person who did no harm to society, Diana would stop him. Obviously, the Punisher is not in this range. On the surface, the Punisher will only take action against the guilty. But don't forget, as long as it is violent, there will inevitably be some uncontrollable collateral damage. And those who suffer these collateral injuries are often ordinary people. Not to mention, the fire in Russell's office is an obvious case. If it wasn't for the timely arrival of the police and firefighters, it wouldn't be just Russell's office that was burned. After sharing with Diana what happened today, Russell patted Diana's flat belly without a trace of fat. You should be a little tired after a day's work. Take a shower and go to bed earlier. Russell's expression and tone were very serious. As soon as he finished speaking, Diana rolled his eyes at him. They were both old couples who had been living together for 2 years. Diana could figure out what he was thinking even with her toes. Diana got up, left the living room, and came to the master bedroom. It didn't take long for the bathroom of the master bedroom to hear the sound of running water. After hearing the sound of running water from the bathroom, Russell got up and walked to the bathroom door. The door of the bathroom was not completely closed, leaving a door gap that was not too big, but the hint was obvious enough. Very good. This is the tacit understanding between husband and wife. Without any hesitation, Russell pushed open the door and walked in. In the bathroom surrounded by mist, there is a perfect body like the goddess Venus. The mist slightly covered this delicate body like a work of art. However, if it is looming and half-covered, it is easier for people to have the urge to see the true face of Mount Lu. The night tonight is very moist. The next morning, Russell, who was busy until midnight, slowly opened his eyes and gently pulled out his left arm, which Diana had used as a pillow. After moving his slightly numb left hand, he couldn't help recalling the crazy scene last night. Compared with Diana, who has the body of a demigod, his extraordinary physique is obviously a little worse. In the past, at the end of the battle, Diana was often the victor. But last night, with his steely tenacious will and the ability to control adrenaline he just acquired, he finally blew the horn of victory on the frontal battlefield and won the final victory. Although last night won the first victory from the frontal battlefield in the 2 years of cohabitation, there were still some small accidents during the battle. He originally thought that he could perfectly control the Venom symbiote. But it turns out that his control distance is a little less than perfect. In some extremely pleasant times, the Venom symbiote will still appear less controlled. When the battle was at its most intense, some symbiotes appeared in him unconsciously. Although the symbiote only emerged from his chest, and only a few centimeters emerged, the consequence was that he was almost kicked off the bed by Diana. If he hadn't reacted immediately and completely retracted the symbiote into his body, he would have left some indelible psychological shadows last night. Although there were some unexpected episodes, I have to say that last night was a very good night, a memorable night. Even in retrospect now, Russell is still a little excited. Psychological and physical excitement. Thinking of this, he unconsciously turned his head to look at Diana, who had not woken up yet. A good-looking person is just as good-looking even when they are sleeping. The long black and supple hair was casually draped, which not only did not give people a messy feeling, but made Diana, a royal sister, look lazy and charming. The ordinary jade shoulder is cut with a knife, with beautiful lines, and the skin is white, tender and delicate. Going down the jade shoulder is a beautiful arc. It's a pity that this arc is now blocked by a thin and soft quilt, making it impossible for people to feast their eyes. Continuing down, most of the pictures you can see are still white quilts. The only thing that was exposed was the slightly uneasy left foot. Long and straight, with perfect lines, and with an excellent feel, his left foot protruded from the quilt. Although there is only a part of it, it can already make people imagine, wondering what kind of attractive body is under the quilt. Russell didn't wake Diana, got up to wash, and at the same time thought about how to find the Punisher who didn't know where he was. Since it has been decided to kill the Punisher, let him kill him as soon as possible, lest he cause some major incident. In the past few days, has done enough things. If he continues to make a high profile, it is difficult to guarantee that it will not lead to some unnecessary troubles. While he was taking a shower, Diana came to the bathroom sleepily. Obviously she has pajamas, but Diana always likes to wear his white shirt, and she only wears a shirt, showing off her beautiful legs unscrupulously. Diana was still making breakfast. While Diana was making breakfast, Russell turned on the TV and watched today's morning news. Sure enough, the wiped-out textile factory has become a headline today. A seemingly ordinary textile factory that paid taxes on time suddenly ushered in disaster. Although the police in New York want to deal with this matter in a low-key manner, they secretly investigate the murderer. But those media with a keen sense of smell will not easily let go of this explosive news. A vicious case that killed dozens of people. In the eyes of the media, this is simply a golden mountain of traffic. In just one night, these media dug up a lot of useful inside information. For example, the seemingly ordinary textile factory is actually a notorious killer organization. The Brotherhood's reputation in the killer world is not small. As long as you are willing to give money, it is not difficult to dig out information about the Brotherhood. A killer organization hidden in the dark. An unknown tragic firefight. Dozens of people died. The combination of various factors has completely ignited the curiosity of the public. Although there are some shooting incidents in New York, there are still not many cases where the death toll has reached dozens of people. The sudden big case not only aroused the strong curiosity of the public, but also attracted the attention of the New York branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. If only ordinary killer organizations were destroyed, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not have any interest. Isn't it because dozens of killers died? No big deal. Safe America, shooting every day. This slogan is not for nothing. But the problem is, the Brotherhood is not an ordinary killer organization. Although the Brotherhood's spear-throwing technique is not a particularly miraculous extraordinary ability, for S.H.I.E.L.D., as long as it has mastered the existence of extraordinary abilities, they are the focus of their attention. Not to mention, it is a group of killers who have mastered extraordinary abilities. A long time ago, S.H.I.E.L.D. noticed the Brotherhood. It's not that S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't think about erasing the unstable factor of the Brotherhood, but after some rigorous judgment and evaluation, they still did not take action against the Brotherhood in the end. Murder is indeed a bad thing, but there are too many killers in New York. Leaving aside the issue of authority, even if S.H.I.E.L.D. really wanted to manage it, it wouldn't be able to manage it. The existence of a killer organization is like a gang. Destroy one, and a second one will appear. As long as the need to hire murderers to kill is still there, the profession of killers cannot disappear. You know, killers and prostitutes are the two oldest professions in the world. No era can completely erase these two professions. Because these two occupations are not just one occupation, but also represent a certain desire of human beings. Desires don't go away, killers and prostitutes don't go away. Although the Brotherhood's spear-throwing technique is on the watch list of S.H.I.E.L.D., this extraordinary ability that can be acquired through learning has not been widely promoted by the Brotherhood. So, after some rigorous judgment, S.H.I.E.L.D. made a decision to observe and not interfere with the Brotherhood. Taking a step back, even if the authorities really want to eradicate the fraternity, this is what the NYPD should do. S.H.I.E.L.D. is an official organization dedicated to preventing and addressing major threats. Even if the Brotherhood mastered the art of throwing guns, and it was a killer organization, it wouldn't be a major threat. Brooklyn, New York branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. Director's Office. Phil Coulson, whose hairline had receded seriously, rubbed his temples helplessly. He had already received a report on the Brotherhood yesterday. But until now, he has not decided whether to intervene in this matter. Officially, the NYPD is in charge of the case. If S.H.I.E.L.D. intervenes, it would be an obvious ultra vires. But if you don't intervene, you will be a little less responsible. The New York Police Department has yet to find out who killed the Brotherhood and created this appalling tragedy. And S.H.I.E.L.D. locked the suspect in less than 2 hours after receiving the news yesterday. The ace killer of the Continental Hotel, the crazy traveler, Russell Bradley. Like the Brotherhood, Russell is also the focus of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s New York branch. The Brotherhood is noticed because they have the art of throwing guns. Russell is noticed because he has an extraordinary physique. In terms of the level of attention, Russell is 2 levels higher than the Brotherhood. Although the Brotherhood is not a good organization, the Brotherhood is at most a killer organization with a longer history and can turn bullets around. Russell is different. When S.H.I.E.L.D. first paid attention to him, it was because he made a little name in the killer world and entered the S.H.I.E.L.D. watch list. At the beginning, S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't pay much attention to him. A killer who just entered the industry quickly emerged, which is not a particularly strange thing in the killer world. Although Russell's rise to fame in the killer world is a bit faster, it's still normal. It was not until the news of his extraordinary physique came out that S.H.I.E.L.D. really took him seriously. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. did not capture him for a head-to-toe detailed examination, after investigation, they confirmed that Russell has an extraordinary physique. Since that time, Russell's rank on the watch list of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been higher than that of the Brotherhood. As the investigation deepened, S.H.I.E.L.D. roughly figured out his extraordinary physique. After the comparison, S.H.I.E.L.D. found helplessly that in terms of physical fitness, Russell is stronger than their current appearance, Captain America. Captain America's physical function has only reached the limit of human potential, which is equivalent to developing all human potential. But Russell is different. Although no specific data has been obtained, the information collected can already confirm that Russell has stronger physical functions than Captain America. Captain America represents the limit of human body functions, while Russell directly crossed the limit and came to the level of inhumanity. After confirming this, Coulson had the idea of arresting and imprisoning Russell. However, the arrest report he submitted was directly returned, and it was returned more than once. For this matter, he also made several trips to the Sanchu Wing headquarters and held several seminars on whether to arrest Russell. The result is very obvious. The result of the research is only observation, not arrest. Although Coulson didn't know what the high-level officials and experts who opposed the arrest of Russell thought, but since the headquarters had made a decision, he could only follow the requirements of the headquarters. Under the secret observation of SHIELD's New York branch, Russell completed the entire process of debuting, becoming famous, joining the Continental Hotel, and becoming a famous traveler. After looking at the report submitted yesterday, and at Russell's files for the past 2 years, Coulson thought for a few seconds, and once again submitted a report on the arrest and detention of Russell to the Sanqui headquarters. After doing all this, Coulson picked up the phone on the table and contacted the secretary outside. "Let Agent Melinda come to the office." After speaking, Coulson hung up the phone. Continental Hotel. Front desk. After eating the breakfast made by Diana, Russell drove to the Continental Hotel. "Mr. Bradley, what can I do for you?" Karen in a neat suit said to Russell. "Has the whereabouts of the Punisher been found?" Russell asked directly. He didn't give Karen any more gold. He had already paid the gold coins that should be paid yesterday. "Not yet, sir. If you want to know as soon as possible, you can consider choosing expedited service," Karen said with a smile. Under normal circumstances, 2 gold coins can buy the whereabouts of the Punisher. Although Karen didn't say it clearly, it was clear that the hotel's intelligence personnel had encountered some minor troubles. Otherwise, Karen would not have said the words to choose expedited service. You get what you pay for. The gold coins on the high table are indeed very useful, but they are not omnipotent. Temporary price increases are rare, but that doesn't mean they won't happen. How much is the expedited fee? Karen didn't speak, and held out 4 fingers. Expedited fee for 4 gold coins. A little expensive. If it wasn't for the fact that he had been listed at the Continental Hotel for a while, Russell would have wondered whether Karen was the middleman who paid the price difference. On the surface, the expedited fee of 4 gold coins is twice the information fee he paid yesterday, which is a little unreasonable. However, considering the strength of the Punisher, the rush fee of 4 gold coins is not unacceptable. As the hotel's ace assassin, the hotel wouldn't take advantage of him in this regard. Without hesitation, Russell took out 4 gold coins from his pocket and put them in front of Karen. Karen took the gold coin and showed a professional smile that couldn't find any fault. "Mr. Bradley, Mr. Winston asked me to tell you that recently, you can consider taking a break." The Winston in Karen's mouth is the head of the Continental Hotel in New York. Although Russell is the hotel's ace killer, he has only seen Winston 2 or 3 times. Winston deliberately asked Karen to convey this sentence, just to remind him to keep a low profile. The New York Police Department has yet to find out that he killed the textile factory, but the hotel knows it clearly. He accepted the commission of the cross in the hotel lobby yesterday. His office was also burned yesterday because of the cross and the Punisher. If the hotel still can't guess, Winston and the hotel's intelligence personnel can resign en masse. "Thank you for Mr. Winston's kindness for me. I have no plans to rest for the time being. The Punisher will not stop until he dies for a day. There is only 1,000 days to be a thief, but there is no 1,000 days to prevent a thief. Unless the Punisher is killed, there is no telling when the Punisher will find the apartment where he lives. This guy is a real paranoid. Not to mention bombing the apartment with a bazooka, even with C4, as long as the Punisher thinks it is necessary, he can do it without any psychological burden. As for whether other occupants of the apartment will suffer collateral damage, this is not within his scope of consideration." Hotel Speakeasy. After paying the entry fee of a gold coin, Russell sat down at an empty booth and asked the waiter for a bottle of whiskey. Not long after he sat down, Perkins, an iceberg beauty, came over. "You did the work of the Brotherhood." Perkins lit a lady's cigarette and asked directly. "There's no need to ask such an obvious thing. Aren't you afraid of attracting the attention of the NYPD? To arrest someone is to pay attention to evidence. I'm just a private detective who abides by the law and never evades taxes." Picking up the whiskey that the waiter just brought, Russell poured a glass for himself and Perkins, and said with a smile, "A major case in which dozens of people died will indeed attract the attention of the New York Police Department." But Russell wasn't worried about that at all. The bullets and pistol he used yesterday were bought from the Continental Hotel, and they have never been used before. Even if the NYPD finds out every bullet at the scene for ballistic comparison and detailed inspection, nothing can be found. Except for the frat killers he shot and killed, everyone else died either in his venom form or grabbed by the cross. He used venom form for the first time yesterday. Even if it wasn't, the NYPD wouldn't be able to find anything from the scars on those bodies. Before leaving the textile factory, he had already confirmed that there was no monitoring equipment in the textile factory. The only thing that could be directly related to him is the various rumors in the underground world. But such things as rumors cannot become evidence. In the more than 2 years of working as a private detective and killer, he has also met many powerful beings. Even without the help of the hotel, he can still use completely legal means to get himself out of the textile factory. On the surface, the beautiful country is a country with a sound legal system. But there are too many rules that can be used. Kim is a good example. Everyone knows that Jin Bing is the king of the underworld in New York. The New York Police Department knows it, the district attorney knows it, and the mayor of New York knows it. But so what? Jin Bian is still alive and kicking. Although Russell doesn't have as large a network of connections as Kim Bing, it is not difficult for him to make a little use of the existing legal rules. The cross is dead, and now only the Punisher is left to deal with it. How about adding me? Perkins spat out a circle and said slowly. You just escaped from him a few days ago, aren't you afraid that you won't have such good luck this time? If someone else wants to deal with him, I will definitely consider it, but you are different. I have confidence in you. Perkins has absolutely no intention of giving up. She is a very vengeful woman. Then you may look down on me a little too much, let alone shoot at him. I don't even know where he is now. Don't be so stingy, I know you don't like others meddling in your actions. If you agree with me to join, I can pay you. What's the reward? Perkins did not answer him immediately, but stood up and sat down beside him. Then, facing his ear, he whispered in a seductive tone, I'll stay with you for 3 days, you can do whatever you want to me. While speaking, Perkins also put her body up, and let Russell experience her softness firsthand. In all honesty, Perkins is indeed a very attractive woman. However, Russell was not at all attracted by the reward she said. What are you kidding? Where is the reward? It's obviously Perkins taking advantage of him. Oh, woman, don't think I'll be fooled. This payment is too expensive, I can't bear it, you should go find someone else. Russell, as always, rejected Perkins. Perkins has been greedy for his body for a day or two. If he hadn't kept himself clean, he would have been eaten and wiped clean by Perkins. Are you still a man, or are you saying you can't? Perkins is worthy of being an experienced female killer, and the first shot is a big move. I cannot, I don't know how many lines. I just defeated a demigod last night. One has the blood of Zeus, the king of the gods, and is very likely to become a demigod of the war in the future. Although she knew that Perkins was using aggressive tactics, she had to say that she was an elite female killer who understood the hearts of men. To tell you the truth, you are indeed very attractive. As long as you say something, the men in the bar shouldn't mind doing something pleasing to you. I rejected you again and again, not because I can't, nor because you are not attractive, but I don't trust you a little. Russell opened some distance slightly and said slowly. Why? Perkins did not expect that this would be the reason for Russell's rejection of himself, and asked. Because I think you may be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.